First of all, thank you so much for making it out. What a weekend we've had. Sort of feels like Minnesota, right? Right, Mark? So Mark is joining us from Minnesota, so thank you. A huge round of applause for him. I really want to welcome our out-of-towners first. Atul Kapoor, he is from Larson & Toubro. Mark is from Zscaler. He's joining us from the Bay Area. And we also have a few other speakers. Jeff, you're not from Austin. Where are you from? Companies in Houston. Awesome. And then we have Hansel Correll. He's joining us from Houston too. So thank you so much. And I apologize if I didn't mention anyone, for coming from all over Texas, coming from all parts of the nation to join us at our third annual AI Impact Summit, from global momentum to local impact. And as you all know, and I'm sure AI has touched many parts of your life, but by way of introduction, my name is Ishi Puri. I am the Chief Growth Officer of the US-India Chamber of Commerce. This is only our third year of operation, and I'm so fortunate that I help grow this amazing organization. And AI has truly transformed my life. I'm a marketer. I also work in sales enablement and biz dev, besides helping the chamber on a part-time basis. And it has totally transformed how I work. Things that would take me a year in marketing now take me days, if not a few hours. So that's my work life. And on my personal life, when my kids are lazy and their grades slip, and I'm trying to pull them up, my daughter, who's 11, tells me, "Mom, I'm not AI, I'm human." So obviously, it's impacting all of our worlds tremendously. But talking about this impact, we can, again, talk all day and talk for weeks and months about AI and talk what's going to happen in 20, 30, 40 years, talk about esoteric topics, but we're not going to do that today. We want to make this summit extremely actionable for you, and we are specifically going to talk about the impact of AI on work. So we have a pretty full agenda. Folks will still trickle in because it is still a working day. But we'll start with an opening keynote. Excited to tell you more about our amazing keynote leader. We will have a panel on how Texas is becoming the leading market in the nation. We will also cover AI's impact on the enterprise, and we will also talk about AI's impact on startups, and then we have a pretty special fireside chat with Jeff Cotton and his incredible journey as an AI-first company. So a lot to cover, and we're super excited. And with that, I just wanted to talk very quickly about the US-India Chamber of Commerce. As I mentioned, it's only our third year of operation, but the momentum is real. Some of our brother or sister chambers, like Dallas and Houston, have been around for over 25 years. We have, a network of, just in Texas alone, of about 5,000 members. And of course, we are building our presence nationally as well. So we're gaining a lot of steam, and I'm so proud of this community. Last but not the least, our mission is very simple. We're here to connect. We are here to create opportunity and drive momentum and growth. So it's pretty simple. We do this in pretty simple ways. We are an event-focused organization, but we also have a lot of programs. So here up are some of our events. The Online Business Spotlight. We have a workshop coming up on planning and leadership. We have a real estate workshop coming up, which will focus on making wise investments in real estate. So more to come on that. And then also up on the screen, we have a lot of South by partnerships. So mixers, we're partnering with the Greater Asian Chamber of Commerce to really talk about how growth is happening in Asia and Texas, and some collaborations happening there. And last but not the least, we have our Fun Spring Mixer. So a lot of interesting things happening. Before I proceed, I want to take a quick second to recognize our board, and we'll also talk about our team in the end. But I would really like to request all of our founding board members, if you're in the room, and our current board members to please stand up as we welcome Dr. Adil Dalal, who is again, he's an international celebrity on AI and cognition in health, and Mr. Alok Singh, who talks a lot about planning and leadership, and he's an amazing mentor and advisor. So I'd like to request all of our board members to please stand up for just a quick second, if I may. Thank you. Thank you. And the reason why I'm asking everyone, and some of them will obviously trickle in during the evening, is because all of these individuals are leaders in their respective sense, but they're also amazing connectors. And that's one of the amazing values we provide to our members. All of our members, if you have not connected to either, for actually any one of these leaders, I would highly encourage you to connect with them. My own personal journey started as a volunteer, and I feel like it's just an incredible, amazing group of leaders, and we are here to make sure that we sustain your growth. So please do connect with them. That said, every successful or fun event begins with gratitude, actually. And we are very grateful to all of our sponsors. So I want to recognize and call them out. Dell Technologies, Daman Consulting, Larsen Toubro Technology Services, Autonomize AI, and InfraCree Capital. I also want to acknowledge our Zscalers friends who are here. They are our annual sponsor, so we cannot really do anything without our sponsors because we are a nonprofit. So thank you, all of you, for your support. And then take two on thank yous. Obviously, our local partners. We are so fortunate to work with amazing organizations. Aaron Demerson is here from the Texas Economic Development Corporation. Hopefully our friends from the Greater Asian Chamber are here as well. But those are just some of the few local organizations we work with who are driving tremendous change, not only in Central Texas, but across Texas. So thank you for your partnership. And then I would like to just call on our chairman, Anupam Govil, to come up here and say a few words and introduce our opening keynote, Mr. Vivek Mohindra.
Thank you, Ishi. Before you step off the stage, I mean, Ishi has been largely responsible for all the programming, content, marketing that you see here. So big round of applause to her. So I'm going to keep my remarks brief, and this is our third AI summit, and every year it's grown. And this year we're doing it as a half-day event. Next year we might do a full-day event at the rate at which it's growing. But that's really, I guess, symptomatic of what's happening all around us. I think we all should feel very fortunate, or most of us at least, that we've lived through 3 revolutionary inflection points driven by technology: the internet age, the mobile explosion, and now the AI era, right? And each of those amplified, our lives, our work, our culture in many, many different ways. AI, of course, is going to have an even much bigger multiplying effect. And, so today we are going to talk about that. I also want to reflect on the fact that, some of the recent developments that we're seeing around here show that Texas is becoming a huge hub for AI. And that's going to be a big theme of today's discussion. But also, since we are a US-India Chamber of Commerce, we're doing a number of initiatives with India. In fact, the Davos Summit just concluded, and Mr. Chintan Vaishnav, who is the IT minister, Ashwin Vaishnav, he announced $150 billion of investment into AI infrastructure. And that's just, again, a small drop in the ocean. I just read on the way here today, Meta is investing another $125 billion in AI infrastructure. So yes, there's a lot going on in this space. And so today's program was really curated to show you different aspects. One, the landscape around us, in Texas and in Austin. And secondly, about how it's impacting the enterprise, how companies are adapting or adopting AI. And then thirdly, startups, how startups are getting disrupted, how they're leveraging AI to drive real innovation. But again, in the personal lives also, it's having a huge impact. I think Ishi was mentioning about that. And the way I like to look at it is like, you have this wild stallion in your, corral, in your ranch, and AI is like that, but you got to tame it. If you tame it, it can be your best friend, otherwise it can be your worst enemy. So you got to learn both the benefits but also the risks of AI. And again, at the end of today, you should have a lot more insights on how to embrace AI within your work, within your your lives, for entertainment, anything that you do, right? So with that, I'm going to invite our first keynote, Vivek Mohindra, who is not a stranger to our chamber. Vivek is SVP and a special advisor to the vice chairman of Dell. He's had a long stint at Dell and is really a visionary in terms of what's happening across the tech sector, but specifically how Dell is leading the charge in AI and what is his view of the evolving AI landscape globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Anupam. It's good to be back here. Some of you might have been in the audience last night where I actually was here for a different purpose, but giving the same speech. For those who are here, you may want to grab a samosa and some chai and hang out outside. I think that'll be time better spent than listening to me all over again. It's great to be here. Anupam, Ishi, and team had asked me to just try to set the stage for what the state of AI is today. And just by way of background, I serve as a special advisor to our vice chair and CEO, Jeff Clark. I also work closely on a lot of AI-related topics. I've been traveling a fair bit globally as well. I serve as an international spokesperson on AI for the US Department of State. As a part of that, I was in Geneva, and I met with, at a reception hosted by the US ambassador to the UN, and met with a bunch of ambassadors there. I was in Europe, met with some policymakers and companies. I do a lot of EBCs with our global customers. And for this presentation, what I thought I would do is zoom out a bit and talk about what is the state of AI through all of these different lenses and vantage points that I've seen, and where do things stand? And I think it'll set up the panel discussions pretty well. There are 4 messages I want you to take away before I get into the presentation. The pace of change in AI continues to accelerate. That is not an exaggeration, it truly does continue to accelerate. And the real implication is, have all of us comprehended that, changed how we actually operate? But the pace of change continues to accelerate. Number 2, there will be massive value shifts in this industry, both within specific verticals and specific areas, as well as across the technology stack. And question, have we all comprehended that, and is there a way to take advantage of that? Third, there are huge bottlenecks that companies are facing in adopting AI. I'll talk about that. But the bottom line is that companies who are doing well are seeing tangible benefits. Companies who are not doing well are not seeing those benefits, and I'll touch upon what some of the early patterns are. But it's very clear, given the pace of change, that the agility of changing will have to increase very significantly from what companies have operated and regulators have operated on before. And fourth, it has massive implications for all of us. As individuals, as companies, as regulators, no matter what your role is, it has massive implications. Those are the 4 things I'll try to make come alive as I go through the presentation. Okay, let's start with the first one. It is a rocket ship. It is going tremendously, no matter how you look at it. So I'm not going to belabor the point. When you look at the amount of data that is the fuel fundamentally for AI, it's expected to triple over the next several years. When you look at the CapEx, when you look at the tokens, when you look at the token prices declining, no matter how you look at it, it is a rocket ship. And I only picked a few select numbers, but just to highlight some more, maybe on the next page, the pace of change continues to accelerate. The pace of change is so dramatic that a year ago, the best model that existed, there are over 30 models today, and this stat is a couple of months old, so I bet there are more now. There are 30 models today which are better than the best model a year ago. A year and change ago, people didn't even talk about these small language models which can be executed on a PC or a phone. There are over 50 models today that are highly proficient at being executed on a PC or a phone, and that didn't exist before. So when you look at the pace of change, it is occurring at pretty much every layer imaginable. It's occurring at the infrastructure layer, and you can actually see some of the stats up there in terms of power per rack. The power per rack, not so long ago in the data center, we used to talk about 10, 15 kilowatt racks. Now we're talking about over 100 and rapidly moving towards megawatt scale racks. It's happening at that level. The pace at which the new processors come out, historically in our computing industry, they used to occur every 2 years. That's now happening every single year. And we look at the pace of change related to that, that's gone up. So there's a massive pace of change increase at the infrastructure layer. There's a massive pace of change increase at the model layer for sure. Every single day, no exaggeration, there is a new model that drops which has exceeded the previous model on some dimension or the other. Just last night, Kimi K2.5 launched, and it's an open model coming out of China. Some of the benchmarks that it showed were better than the closed models, leading large language models in the United States. 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, Claudad was all the rage, where people are talking about Claudad, which can be executed, which is an agentic platform which can be executed on a PC. Now back to, I think, some of the points that Ishi and Anupam were making, the security implications of that are massive. But the pace of change is so dramatic and so significant that many of us are caught in the trap of damned if you do, damned if you don't. There is no choice but to actually incorporate these changes, otherwise you have a fear that you'll be left behind. But the implication in terms of security, risk, all these other profiles, and I'll touch upon that when I talk about enterprise AI adoption, are pretty massive. And many people don't fully understand it, which is somewhat scary but true. Pace of change is also significant at the agentic layer now. A year and a half ago, we were not even talking agentic, we were still talking about Gen AI, but now with agentic technologies and multi-agentic coming through, and I know we were talking about ServiceNow and the workflows therein, that ServiceNow has access to. The pace of change is increasing very, very significantly. And to stay on top of that does require staying on top of that on a daily basis. This is, again, not an exaggeration. We embarked on this journey pretty early on, 3 years ago. One of the first things we did is we mapped out these battlegrounds that we think will emerge in this industry. And we released, between our CTO office and strategy office, we released within Dell a daily AI radar that looks at the developments every single day. And many of us within the company spend the first thing looking at that radar and then reflecting on what does it really mean. And that's the type of behavioral change that this pace of change is required. Now, when you look at the impact, it's clear that the impact will be massive. These numbers are somewhat shocking, that 45% of the GDP growth came about from AI investments in the US. When you look at global numbers, the global GDP is on the order of about 105, 110 trillion, global GDP. We're looking at impact, which is on the order of 15 trillion by the end of the decade to that. So that's a pretty big percentage, 10 to 15% type of an impact. This is a macro number. At a micro level, Goldman Sachs did a survey of all the published research as well as company announcements. And they published it in November of last year. In November of last year, when they looked at what companies actually have been able to realize in terms of improvements from AI and Gen AI in particular, that range was 27 to 31%. And the highs for individual companies who have done it well were north of 50% in terms of impact. So that is the type of impact we are talking about from this technology. I get asked if it's hype or not. It is, and I was having a conversation before this talk. My view is it depends. If you look at the fundamental technology and what it can actually do, ever since the advent of transformers in 2017 and now moving forward, there are really, really fundamental drivers of change which will actually persist, and we believe it's a multi-decade tailwind. But then if you're in the investing world and looking at either making an investment as a VC or in the public markets, and whether those investments reflect the right entry valuation, that is up to your judgment in terms of where it means. But there will be massive value shifts. These value shifts will occur at each and every industry, and I'll share some examples. In retail, for example, companies who have done it well are already seeing, for example, pricing and stockouts are seeing 1 to 2%, 1 to 3% better top line growth. They're seeing 10 to 20% reduction in stockouts, if you will. Governments have implemented it and seen 50 to 60% improvement in the amount of services the time it takes to provide the services to the folks that they provide it to. In manufacturing, people who have implemented it well have seen 20 to 40% reduction in downtime with predictive maintenance, you name it. And then on the technology stack side, too, there are going to be massive shifts. A few decades ago, I used to be at McKinsey, and I used to co-lead McKinsey's semiconductor practice globally. If at that time somebody had told me how much value will accrue at the semiconductor layer that is beginning to happen now, I would have said, no, it's not going to happen. But when you look at what's happening between semiconductors, infrastructure, applications, software as a service is another good example. You can figure out where you stand on that spectrum, but the facts are that the multiples have compressed in software and services. They've compressed on the order of 30% over the past 6 to 9 months on the back of a question around, do software and services companies, fundamentally many of them turn into system of record companies, and these agentic workflows end up taking a lot of that value-added burden off of those. Again, it's a good question. I'm not passing a judgment, but it is one of these indicators of there will be massive value shifts. Now, what defines companies who have been able to realize value and who have not? And it really comes down to the bottlenecks. I think this one. When I zoom out and look at our own journey, which I'll touch upon at toward the end just to make it come alive for you, and think about companies who have realized value versus companies who have not, or companies who are actually thinking that it may be somewhat of a hype. Here are a few differences that emerge, and it's reflected in these bottlenecks for enterprise AI adoption. Companies who have done it well have defined their use cases very, very sharply. First and foremost, they have not treated an AI strategy as an independent standalone strategy. They have treated AI strategy as fundamentally supportive of the basic company strategy. That's the first thing they have done. And based upon that, then they have determined which are the use cases they're going to focus on. By and large, companies who have pursued a let 1,000 flowers bloom approach have not seen the commensurate returns versus companies who have sharply defined those use cases in the context of their business strategies, and they tend to be on the order of 4 to 5 and put all their wood behind those particular arrows. So AI use cases. The second, right behind that, is data. Without good data, you cannot realize the value from these AI use cases, which typically means companies have to invest a lot of time thinking about where is their data, how do they unify it with a common data mesh, and rather than solving the entirety of the data estate, companies who have picked their AI use cases very sharply focus on the slivers of data that are pertaining to that particular use case and getting it in shape. So that's the second thing that they've done. Third, they have recognized that skills are an issue. And many of them, surprisingly actually, I think there was a survey in Texas that 62% of Texas companies didn't think that AI skills were fundamentally an issue. I'm not quite sure where that stat came from. But the bottom line is, AI skills are an issue because that's really what it takes to figure out which AI use cases and how do you get the data in shape, and then how do you set up the right architectures to extract value from that without giving value away. Those are the three things which define companies who have realized value well versus not. And those, incidentally, are also the bottlenecks in AI adoption, enterprise AI adoption. Companies who have figured that out are moving along well. And then you see a whole litany of other bottlenecks that show up underneath that. So you can see up there in terms of security, transparency, ethics, all of those are really, really important issues. Power ends up being a really interesting issue as well. I think in Texas, by the end of 2028, there's an expectation that we will need 40 gigawatts more worth of power generation capacity in Texas. And then you look at globally, the global data center usage, power usage is expected to go from 400 terawatt hours to between 16 and 1800 terawatt hours by the end of the decade. When you look at the difference, that would be number 3 or number 4 country in terms of the amount of power consumption. That's the magnitude we're talking about. At a micro level, at a company level, what are companies struggling with? Many of the companies are basically saying, we don't think we have the power available within our data centers to be able to execute these workloads. And again, that is fundamentally the wrong way to think about it, in my view. Companies who have done it well, who start with the AI use cases, data, then the next thing they do is they figure out where's the best place to deploy these workloads. And by and large, companies who have done well deploy them in a hybrid environment. They'll typically run their POCs sometimes in the public cloud. Then they will actually move down to the on-prem portion of that and know where they're going to partition it. And smartly, many of them are actually now using PCs because PCs are becoming much more performant. And PCs tend to be the most cost and energy efficient node to execute a lot of these workloads on. I'll briefly touch upon the role that all of us, it has implications for all of us. I'm not going to drain this slide, but boards of directors are struggling with, okay, what are the kinds of questions they ask the management? Individuals need to stay on top of the changes every single day. Companies need to figure out where they're going to focus on. Investors need to think about how to realize the value. Entrepreneurs need to figure out where the value will be and how do they actually sharply have a use case where they can extract the value. There's massive implications everywhere. Governments have a big burden too, because many of the governments are struggling with how do they balance security versus innovation. And all of us, small or large companies, operate in a global construct, which means that we need to deal with the regulations at the local, state, national, and international level. And governments are aware of that, and they have a role to play in that too. So lots of implications for all of us. I'll close by just talking about what have we done at Dell and how have we approached this. We started our journey over 3 years ago. The first thing we did is we said, how do we deconstruct AI so it's more tractable and digestible to everyone? So we came up with this very relatively simple framework called AI in, on, for, and with. It allowed us to partition this AI problem into discrete buckets that are easy for everybody to understand and all of our team members to understand what role they have to play in that. AI in, what do we need to do to put AI, how can we put AI in our products so they just run much better than they historically have? AI on, what roadmaps do we create across our server, storage, networking, data protection, PC estate to have our customers run their workloads much better on our products? AI for, how do we use AI for transforming ourselves, which led to a massive modernization initiative inside the company. AI with, how do we partner with others, not only to implement AI for ourselves, but also make sure that we can bring the best to our customers to bear. So that's the first thing we did. Second, we developed some core beliefs around AI. And these have proven to be surprisingly enduring, even as the technology has continued to shift. It's all about the data. Without good data, you can't do good AI. It's all about the data. In a world where vast majority of data sits outside of the clouds or on-prem in some environment, and half of enterprise managed data every year is created and managed at the edge outside of a on-prem or public cloud, it makes sense to bring AI to data than data to AI. Much more secure, much more cost effective. Third, there's no one size fits all. It depends upon what use case you want to realize value from. It'll come about from large models, small models, purpose-built models, and different implementations in terms of where you end up executing that workload. 4, different layers of the stack are moving different pace. So you need to have an open modular architecture so you can ingest, for example, model and agentic innovations which are coming at a faster clip into an infrastructure layer which is moving at a slightly different pace. And 5th, no single individual has it all, so you need to have an open ecosystem to bring it to bear. Those 5 core beliefs have served us really, really well and have actually endured even as we have moved from Gen AI to agentic to multi-agentic systems now. And I would encourage all of you to think about what are the core beliefs that underpin whatever role you're in, whatever company you're in, because they have to be the guideposts for how you move it forward. And then we have used that lens to focus on the right use cases for us. In our case, they ended up being 5. We focused on governance. We focused on engagement with the government authorities. We focused on AI skilling. All of those initiatives kind of have come about from these on-forward framing as well as these core beliefs and what we believe will give us a competitive advantage in the industry. With that, hopefully I've given you something to chew on, and I look forward to listening to the panels because I know they're going to cover a lot of these topics related to entrepreneurs and skilling and enterprise AI adoption. So I'm really looking forward to listening to the rest of the panelists here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right. All right. Next up, first of all, thank you so much, Vivek, Mohindra, for setting the stage. Again, there's so much to cover, and there's so much going on at the national and global level. Thank you so much for giving us an amazing snapshot and a really good segue into the next panel, which is our Texas panel. And for this panel, I would like to welcome on stage once again our chairman, but he's also the managing partner of Avasant, Mr. Anupam Govil. I'd like him to come on stage, as well as our panelists for this session, Mr. Sunil Pal, he's the head of AI GPU allocation at AMD, Mr. Vijay Reddy Pitta, and of course, Mr. Aaron Demerson from Texas Economic Development Corporation. And again, Vijay is joining us. Where is he? There he is. Come on up. He's joining us from Dallas, and he's the founder of InfraKey Capital. So really excited to welcome all of you and talk about some of the exciting things that are happening in Texas.
Great. Vijay is also one of the founding board members of the chamber here. So first of all, I mean, that was an amazing keynote from Vivek. I'd like another round of applause. With such clarity, he gave everyone a bird's eye view of AI, how it's evolving, what's its impact, how you can leverage it, impact across different industries. So kudos to him. So in this panel, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into, what's really happening in the landscape, right? And, okay, so I'll have to stand up. So Vivek gave some insight into what's really happening around us. Now, what's becoming very evident is Texas has become ground zero for AI in many ways. Prior to a few years ago, Virginia, the state of Virginia, was the global hub for data centers, the world's largest cluster of data centers for certain geographic reasons. But Texas has almost outstripped. If you look at that chart there, the graph, you can see Virginia has 665. It still has a pretty big lead, but Texas is catching up. It's at 413. And California is left far behind, and it's falling far behind. And the big reason for that is Texas has access to some of the most important elements for AI infrastructure. Power, not just access to power, but cheaper. Land, and of course, easier business-friendly regulations. So we're going to talk about some of that. But besides that, if you look at the whole stack there on the right, energy, data centers, GPUs, CPUs, LLMs, applications, middleware, and then talent, right? Both tech talent and entrepreneurial talent. I would say in each of those layers, except for maybe LLMs, which is still the domain of Silicon Valley and a few other hubs around the world, Texas has huge lead. We have AMD right here, right? We have Sunil, we have Milan, right? They're one of the leaders along with NVIDIA in this market, right? We've got some of the largest data centers being built here. And then in applications and middleware, Austin itself has got a huge advantage. It's becoming an applied AI hub. And then, of course, I don't need to talk about talent. But before I start with the panel, I do want to make this point that while we're talking here about GPUs and data centers and models and agents, the real change that's happening is at an even deeper layer. It's how AI is blending with the real world. It's blending with medicine, with healthcare, with energy, with materials to really create a new physical reality that we are all collectively experiencing. But more importantly, we are all here to talk about business. How do we tap into those opportunities? How do we either adapt our business or how do we start new businesses, right? So let's dive right in. I'm going to first start with Sunil, have him give a very brief intro about himself, his background, then Aaron, then Vijay.
Hi, everyone. So you saw my name that I'm coming from AMD, but how I fit into this panel. The background is that I've been involved with the state of Texas as well as 12 other states for the CHIPS Act program in my previous role. That's how I know Texas very well and also the rest of the country. And also my last project before I left the previous company, I did a project for Sanand, Gujarat in India. That's how those two topics and the infrastructure that is related to how Texas and how Austin is going to be the boom town for this AI industrial revolution, right? That's my background.
Aaron Dimerson with the Texas Economic Development Corporation. Let me first of all say namaste, and we're a pleasure to be here. Ishi, great job that to put on, and I'm going to make mine pretty brief because I know she's going to give us a yank if we're not fast with this. But I've been fortunate to work for a couple of governors, Governor Perry and now Governor Abbott, doing economic development for the state and workforce as well. We are really set up to market this state of Texas. We want to make sure that companies that are here in Texas stay in Texas, and those that are looking at Texas versus the California or Virginia pick no other state than the great state of Texas, and we get to do that work with a lot of partners. And so thank you guys for being a partner with us, with the corporation as well, and we look forward to this discussion.
Thank you. We are a corporate member of Texas EDC. Vijay.
I'm Vijay Pitta. I'm one of the founder of InfraKey Capital. Again, good afternoon. Thank you for everybody who joined us. As one of the chamber members, we're happy to see so much crowd. Secondly, I'm quick background. I have ADHD, so that's how my career is. I'm a mining engineer, industrial engineer, IT, capital, and then real estate and data centers. I don't know what I will do next. So if I'm all over the place in the next 15 minutes, just bear with me.
Well, you go where the opportunity is. So, okay, so let's get into this. So Texas, as I said, has become ground zero, right? Talk to us a little bit about the influx of capital and business into the state. How is this impacting the overall economy? And we just saw those numbers from Vivek, where he talked about 45% of the contribution to the GDP growth has been through AI build out. So how is this impacting Texas economy? What kind of capital businesses are coming into the state? Maybe starting with you, Aaron, then Sunil and Vijay.
Yeah, well, business is booming here in Texas, and we're excited about what's happening here in our state. You saw some of the numbers that are there. The last report, it was 279 data centers as of September. That number's gone up tremendously from that standpoint. And so we have an opportunity to really showcase that. We want to tell the world that Texas is the best place to do business. You've seen the Google announcement where they're going to be in 3 rural communities. We basically are seeing urban areas explode, rural communities explode in that regard as well. Foxconn in Houston, Windstrom in Fort Worth. I mean, a number of things that are happening in Texas in a big, big way. And that's because of the business climate that we have in the state. We think we can compare to any other state. When you ask corporate CEOs where's the best place to do business, they're going to tell you Texas is the best place, and that's third party validated. When we're set up that way, when you talk about infrastructure and water and those things that are important to the data centers in this evolution of AI, Texas is poised to take care of business. We didn't start late with this. We were in India. I shared this quick story back in January 2024. And we were meeting with a number of different groups there, and thank you guys for the support there. But when Governor Abbott was talking to Mr. Adani, and they were talking about what's important, the governor was mentioning semiconductors, space, and artificial intelligence. Those were the things that were important to Texas way back then, and we're seeing that happening right now. And so Texas is leading. It's not a surprise that we're number one in a lot of different ways. We're addressing the education side of it. We're addressing the energy side of it, and we're also addressing the governance side of it as well. And so that's why you're going to find companies wanting to come to a state like ours, because you're not going to be burdened with the bureaucratic processes. You're going to be welcomed in Texas as a state where you can do business, and we're not surprised to see what's happening on the healthcare side, the finance side, all over. It's happening, and AI is a very important part of that, but we're up to the task.
Sunil, what are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely, what Aaron just said. I mean, given if you look at last year, around 200 data centers that has been proposed.
Could you take the mic further up? Yeah.
The 200 data centers that has been planned for the state. The main reason why companies are coming to Texas or in Austin region is because of the power. The scale needed, the power needed, no other state can give that. So with that, last year, if you look at the generation of power is 85 gigawatt for the state of Texas, but with the 200 data center is going to be 250 gigawatt. There are 2,000 projects right now for the generation submitted. If those get into approval and get somehow planned, it will generate 450 gigawatt by the end of this century, by 2030. So that's the scale we're looking at. It's not just about the generation of electricity is solar, wind, natural, nuclear also. So Texas is leading in every way. They just want to get power. That is the key.
So Vijay, what is your take? I mean, you yourself are working in one of the path-breaking projects in Texas. Give us your take.
I'll set up 3 meta frames for us for next 15 minutes. First frame is what will be the situation will be in 10 years, right? First, I'll look at, I'm a capital guy, so for us, the constant challenge is separating the noise, or signal from the noise. So we look at the context of the marketplace, look at what is the signal, what's the noise. The first thing we look at is where will the AI will be in 10 years? Will be the winners, will be the losers? We will be there, that's the first question to look back and work backwards. Second, what are the core capabilities required for a state, for a country, or even a city to stand out, right? The third, this other core theme you have to remember is every click, wherever you are, whichever device you are, has a physical address. That's where the context of Texas gets mapped to. The fourth is the scale and the complexity of the AI data centers is humongous. So you have to address multiple issues there. Texas is one of the state competing to become the ground zero for AI, but it's not there yet. Not because of not because of lack of efforts, but just the context of the technology that's required to be the ground zero. Subsea cables, global traffic. Who is tracking the data? Where is the federal government? So that kind of gives an edge to Virginia. Where is the supply chain? Where is the economy going? Supply chains, warehouses, storages, that gives edge to some other companies. And so the other meta frame I think we use is called one of the NVIDIA CEO has put a nice framework. It's not perfect, but I think gives all of us a common context. It's a 5-layer lake. You got the energy, you got the chips, you got the infrastructure, which is physical and digital. Fourth is models and applications. I think we know addressed apps and the model very well. Chips, we have a friend there to answer it. The not so smart guy who's going after these crazy projects. We are doing a project in Waco, right on Highway 35. It's a 520-acre campus. It's called a data center park. It's a 1.2 gigawatt project from a grid with a 1.2 gigawatt gas power plant on site. That was a project we started 3 years ago. 3 years ago, just to give you the context. So here is the first other meta frame to understand what drives this digital infrastructure, right? The first thing you have to learn is the megawatt language. It's no more a warehouse with a physical space, not square feet. It is the megawatt of power. From the grid, what you tap into, how much of it translates to compute power. So if you have a megawatt, you're drawing from, 100 megawatt drawing from the physical grid, really becomes the compute power it's called PUA ratio 1.2, 1.3, you're looking at 80 megawatts. Typically, these data halls are built at 72 megawatts. Then, what does the AI factory really translate to? For a data center to become an AI factory, it has to be 300 megawatts. That's kind of a quick context for you. And then, in terms of the budget required, if you want to build a power plant, if you want to build 1 megawatt power plant capacity, 1.5 million to 2 million. If you want to build a 1 megawatt data center compute capacity, you have to invest 12 million to 15 million. So it is easier to build a power plant than to build a data center. That 12 to 15 million dollars required for a data center doesn't include the physical servers, the chips. That's excluding that. So now look at this. So 3 years ago, when we were talking about the gigawatt campuses, there are only 3 companies. One is a company called Quantum Loophole. It's in Maryland. They will get the fiber first approach there. Second, there's a company called Track out of Nevada. That's the power first approach. And we are the third guys, and we were actually, a lot of people looked at it as very risky projects. After Trump announced the Stargate, the gigawatt data center campuses is the table stakes right now. Right? Now you're looking at last 1 year, 18 months. You're almost, if you add up all the press releases at least, you're looking at 60 gigawatts to 80 gigawatts, maybe 100 gigawatts. That translates to $1 trillion investment over the next 5, 7, 10 years. So for Texas to really become epicenter, it has to address multiple things. Quick summary of it. It has to address do we have the risk capital in place? Do we have the political will to bring those things? And third, do we have the community support? It's called bragawatts. When it does these big announcements, capital requires it, capital allows it. Do you want to say a press release announcing 50 gigawatt, 20 gigawatts, 10 gigawatts, a gigawatt? But the community doesn't like it. Community panics. You'll see protests. You'll see Facebook pages. You'll see websites protesting. So there are a lot of things that need to be addressed for us for the next 10 years, for us, Texas, to really, really become an epicenter. That's
great. Thanks, Vijay. So Sunil, with AMD, obviously you're working on your GPU, CPU chipsets, and sustainability in AI has become a huge issue because of many of the things Vijay was just talking about. So talk to us a little bit about some of the innovations happening at the hardware level, at the firmware level, at the model level that are going to reduce the carbon footprint of AI compute.
Yeah, it's
also
not
make it
just-
more economical, obviously.
Yeah, it's not just AMD. The shift has already started from GPU to NPU, the neural processing systems, and the AI ASICs. And the workload, because of that, has already been reduced by 40%. So that's the trend we see. Might have seen Google releasing their own TPUs, right? So in that trend. In terms of model and optimization, 2026 is the year of quantization and model distillation, where model will be distilled in a small, discrete, and can be run much faster. The other thing is moving to the edge. Instead of sending your data to the cloud, the processing can be done at the edge and much faster, and that relieves the stress on that side. So these are the different optimizations that are happening, and basically we'll have solutions to address that.
And Aaron, of course, as you mentioned, Texas is, aiming to be ground zero, but obviously other states are competing for it. We heard about the big Meta data center coming up in Louisiana. So how is Texas competing for these large hyperscaler data centers, the ones that are bringing in billions of dollars into the state? And of course, there's a big Stargate program happening in Abilene. Maybe you can share a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, 3.5 billion there in Abilene, Texas. It's the first one that was announced from the federal government. From that standpoint, I think it goes to some comments that were been mentioned. We have to make sure we're listening. And so when you have a state like Virginia, this is number one. They're there for a reason, and we have to look at those challenges that we have here in Texas and turn those into opportunities. And that's what we do well in here. And so everything that's mentioned in regards to the negatives about Texas maybe not being able to achieve, we're addressing those situations. And we've always taken things head on. And that's what gets us to being the state with 13 governor's cups for 13 years in a row. The number one state in terms of foreign direct investment, number one in a lot of different ways. But it is listening to comments that are made about what gets us there, and then utilizing the expertise that's in this room and in this state to make sure that we move ourselves to that level that gets us to being number one. We're seeing that happen when you talk about the financial industry, where you have, and this is all AI related, it taps into all of it, where you have a Texas stock exchange that's been gotten SEC approval. That prompts the New York Stock Exchange to move here. It prompts NASDAQ to move here. With technology being out there, there is not a reason why companies that are like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, that's Chicago in the name, but a lot of it's technology driven. And so Texas is going to compete in a big way. We're going to continue to showcase the state, the business friendly climate that we have as a state. And then we're going to continue to listen to what those challenges are so that we can turn those challenges into opportunities. And we have the brain capacity to do that. We have the will to do that. And it's like the governor said, you're looking at semiconductors, space, and artificial intelligence. And if you're not in that area, then you're going to get left behind. And we are not used to being left behind.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Central Texas now and the opportunities here, right? I mean, we're definitely in the middle of the AI version of the gold rush, right? But in any gold rush, it's the ancillary companies around it, ancillary industries around it that really benefited from it, or were able to, reap those opportunities. So, Vijay, maybe you got some insights on what kinds of opportunities are there for Central Texas companies, whether it's in construction, hardware, software, talent.
We all talk about unicorns in fund world, right? I run a fund, so I have certain guardrails I have to follow. I won't be political, I would be too opinionated, but I'll express it. First, the unicorn is, so every 35 megawatts, if you build a digital data center and lease it, that's a unicorn. So that's the first opportunity any of you can go after. Go find the land, get the power, get the fiber, get a tenant, lease it, build it, you have a unicorn in your hand. It is no innovation. No one needs any new brains. Problem has been solved 100 times. That's why I'm in. I don't need to use my brains, just go execute on it. Second, there is going back to my core theme, meta frame of what will be happening in 10 years. In 10 years, no matter how the world changes, any business model around hardware-centric will be cannibalized. We've seen in telecom boom, we've seen in dot-com boom, we'll see in historically, it's the first. Second, second would be there will be sovereign AI. That's given. Right? And Trump's policies have accelerated it everywhere globally. And third, there will be a security layer that separates the data from the compute. Eventually, the winner will be something called tokenomics. Who can provide the cheapest compute power reliably? Resilience is the word used in the data center world, 99.999%. But that's where the opportunities will be. And you work backwards. Pick an area and go bet on it and compete.
Sunil, do you have any thoughts on this? I know you've been also looking at, the business and startup community and so on. What are your thoughts on the opportunities for maybe some of the members here in the audience?
In terms of opportunity for the Central Texas, look at the area from Austin to San Antonio. That's called the Innovation Corridor. The land, the opportunity, the power, the grid, everything is over there. When you're just talking about, let's just talk about data center only. People have saying that why it's going to Texas or Arizona. Why not the north? Because the water. Water is not the limiting thing because the coolant, the innovation is happening for the cooling of the data center is as a coolant, not as a water. Water is the cheap source, but not the constraint. The constraint is the power, as I said earlier. So whoever will produce the more power will be the winner. And we are just at the beginning of this race. Leaders from the tech industry said AI will be 1 trillion by the end of the decade. This month, McKinsey published an article saying 1.5 trillion. From last year to this year, you're adding 0.5 trillion into this AI. So it's not hype. There is a reality. And in terms of Austin and neighboring area, the talent is huge here. You look at UT Austin, Texas A&M, UT Dallas, Rice, Texas Tech, Texas State. This is like within 2 hours. So the pool that we have, the resource that we have, the ecosystem that is building, definitely, we look at Bay Area for the as a lab for the AI, but the Texas and Austin is going to be the factory floor for the AI because of their expertise in manufacturing, their expertise in deployment at scale. Without that, it's impossible. The other thing I want to point out is that Texas is the only state where you have the right kind of trade people in the Panhandle, the Houston, Louisiana side of any big industrial large-scale project you do, whether it's a manufacturing plant or semiconductor fab, all these people live here. Whether you are building a fab in Arizona or somewhere else, these people go over there. So you have all the right people here in your state, in your place. That's the beauty here.
Great. Well, we're almost running out of time. So I'd like to close out with this one question to all of you about, where do you see Texas in terms of its AI dominance in the next 5 years? I know we're talking about the data center infrastructure, but I would say overall in terms of the whole ecosystem, right? Maybe Aaron, starting with you, and then Vijay. And
I'll go last.
okay, you want to go last? All right, Vijay.
So my CEO actually does business in Virginia and Texas. He loves Texas. Here is the reason. When we did announce the data center project in Waco, the city of Lacey Lakeview offered us to give 8 million gallons of water. They announced a public-private partnership. They promised us roads. Absolutely, we didn't even buy a coffee for them yet. So that's the kind of the cooperation you would see. We had an announcement. There's something called Pacific Telecom Conference, it's the largest data center conference in the world. Everyone flies in. The city manager flew in at his own expense to make an announcement. That kind of and of course, EDCs everywhere. That championed us. We actually had an opportunity to meet the EDC office, of course, Aaron many times, and also the governor's EDC office personally. They directed us where to go, what not to do, and they also showed us where to go bet on. Right. So Texas is the best place to be to do business. Number one, I think like what Sunil and Aaron is going to mention. I think this is the place, but Texas has to get certain things right. It has to get energy mix right, because financing $1 billion projects requires underwriting by global capital, European capital. Once you touch $1 European capital, they have certain underwriting standards around sustainable energy. So Texas cannot take their eyes off the sustainability goals for next 10 years. Until they get that right energy mix, you cannot compete globally, because eventually the only survivors will be the cheapest compute power, sustainably. So that's, I think, to get right. That's my final. Thank you.
No, I just want to add what we just said. In Texas, the stat that I gave earlier for, let's say, the 2000 project will go through in the next 5 years. If that goes through, that will generate 430 gigawatt of power. 77% of that is coming from wind, solar, and the battery related. So that this is in compliance with the green energy. So that's one thing. So in order to win the business, the rate that Texas is going, I think that's the right way. Last year they passed a legislation SB6. Maybe Aaron might want to talk about that. That's for the large load grid thing. So I think what Vijay is saying that there was an issue before, but as you see the problem and opportunity, the directions are going that way, and that's why there is more than 200 applications for the data center. That's only just 1 year. In between 2022 to 24, we're only 150 applications. So.
And I'll close with this, and I agree with both of the comments that were made there as well. We have great opportunities here in Texas. I wanted to point out members of my team, Valerie, that's here, Investor Relations, and Dale Robertson, a real good friend of you guys here as well. And then Brooklyn is in the back. And then I had a guest with me, Jaya, that's here, who has a staffing company, Jaya. Thank you for joining us as well. We are uniquely blessed here in Texas. I mean, we have star power that's on this panel. We have individuals that are in this audience that really makes it work. In Texas, we say our secret sauce a little bit is when you bring together the worlds of workforce, economic development, and education. Workforce, economic development, and education. And then you couple that with elected leadership that gets it, then we're well on our way to success. And in Texas, we do that quite well, and that allows us to compete in major ways because we bring in all those individuals to the table. I was on the UT University of North Texas campus. Dr. Mogi is there, the new chancellor on board there, and there's a summit on AI. It was in Frisco. I mean, so the conversations are taking place at the education level. Our corporation did a summit that was called the Future of Energy in Texas, where we're already addressing all those situations, and we did the same thing on the finance side. And so I'm delighted to be a part of this panel, excited about what's going to happen in our great state of Texas, and with the individuals that are in this room in the India Chamber, U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce, leading that way and leading these type of discussions, we can't go anywhere but up from that standpoint. And so, again, thank you guys for the opportunity. We call it a bigger, better Texas. And that's kind of where we are in this great state. We're going to continue to bring those three areas together: workforce, economic development, and education. And again, we'll have our elected officials involved in that. And when that's taken place, then we're well on our way to success. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So I'd like to close out with the fact that while AI may have had its birthplace in Silicon Valley, I think Texas is where it's going to find its real world use. And again, I like metaphors, so I look at AI as that jet engine, the infrastructure, the models, but you need the fuselage, you need the actual body that takes it somewhere, right? And that's going to be built here in Texas, whether it's at the model, at the infrastructure layer, whether at the application layer, with all the talent that we have here. Also the ecosystem of businesses. I mean, Texas has 70 Fortune 500 organizations. These are all enterprises that are going to use AI and apply it in real world use cases. So lots of opportunities here. With that, I'd like to close out the panel and thank everyone.
Thank you.
Dhanyavad.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Let's give a huge round of one more time to our amazing panelists, our amazing keynote. So we're just warming up here, and I'm so glad we're already like feeling the heat. Everybody's coming out of obviously their work, and a few programming notes. So first of all, I think this panel really set the stage in terms of what the future panels are going to talk about. So reiterating the Jensen Huang cake, we focused a lot on infrastructure. And I also want to call out talent a little bit. There are amazing individuals in the room, so please network. And when it comes to talent, I do also want to recognize Sanjay Ramchandra. He should be here. He's the Dean of Texas State, the business school. Thank you so much. There he is. So please go check in with him as well on the talent dynamic. And then we're going to have a 30-minute networking break. Please get some refreshments, get some snacks, get some drinks, and we're going to come back for an electric enterprise panel. And then we're going to venture into the startup world, talk about AI's impact on the startups, and we have an amazing closing keynote as well. So hang tight, network, and we'll come back in about 25 minutes. Thank you. All the amazing things you do here.
When we come step within the appendices. Okay. Everybody come back to the seats if you can. Thank you. First of all, we have to thank everybody. Late and program also. Like an email from Eva, Ishi, Alpha, Shira, everybody. Everybody. So working hard. So it's different. 3 years back, we were like one or two people. Just to start it. Now we see the energy, how much energy we believe on the how we can able to help the connect each other. That's a major. Because as an entrepreneur for the last 26 years, I think so. I mean, a lot of challenges are brought so much. The aspiration that entrepreneurs are setting is to be there. That's it. I hope everybody is coming back to the seats. Thank you. So, what I'm trying to say is, what are the benefits? What are the things? The number one thing is here is networking. There is nothing is more important than networking. What you know is not important. Who you know is very important as an entrepreneur. I know AI can do technology, other things, but the relationships cannot be replaced. Maybe I'm experienced with the state of Texas and doing a lot of business. Maybe I may be able to help some of the entrepreneurs. I met with a lot of AI companies. They want to do business with the state of Texas. This is the problem they met me. Like the members, what are the benefits? What are the things? We are doing a networking events, as well as vibrant events today. Vivek, Aaron, Vijay. So amazing talents will be updated. And also spring nutrition and mentorship. We mentored last year close to 3-4 people. They are amazingly successful. We continuously mentor people. And the mentorship is so important. Mentorship without mentor, without coach. Yes, of course, we reach the destination, but we need to have a mentor. What are the things we are doing? How are they doing? What are the things maybe your other entrepreneurs might have experienced the things what you are able to experience? The same mistakes we look into. See, in the relationship also, with the very important thing I say is a perfect fit. Some of the personality fit is required, culture fit, product versus big companies. What kind of people is useful? So this is the place where you can experience. If you see, I'm going around living there. My intention is, can I help you? What can I help you? Do you need anything? Please do let me know. That's all my. It's a big business organization. I say, I'm a founder of the company. I say, expect nothing, accept everything. It's a big business organization. Here, expect something, accept it. You expect you're coming here, you're spending so much time coming over here, all the way from the downtown in this center. We want you to come down and maybe one or two contacts may be very useful to you. This LLT network, we have a delegation.
We have workshops, we talked about it. We have a leadership workshops we are planning to do in the coming months. And also, one thing I believe is time management versus thought management. What I understand is We always caught up with the time and I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this. For what? So when I understand the thought management, what kind of energy, when I meet with some people, I know my thoughts can be enhanced. What kind of thought is coming? Is it a circular thoughts? Is it my consciousness is high, my consciousness is low? Or can I connect with these people? As an entrepreneur, these personal qualities are more important. Of course, AI session today, but I'm just explaining what are the things as an entrepreneur I am experiencing. Myself, I will always say when I'm in the prayer room or anything, I'll say CHFP. I'm calm and stable, I'm calm and stable, I'm always happy, I'm always happy, I'm always happy, I'm fearless, I'm fearless, I'm fearless. It's a universal energy, connects the thoughts, and the manifestation will happen. This is what happened in my space. I'm so happy. I'm so content. I'm so joyful and happy. That's all it matters at the end of the day. And invest on yourself is so important. I invested myself onto rapport leadership. I walked on the fire along with my wife. She's a fire right now. She's heading to the Dallas. She's taking care of it. I'm here helping here. But I invested on my daughter. She's an entrepreneur. So lot of friends, I helped them. Hey, invest on yourself. Go to some leadership things. Come down like a networking sessions like this. Never know. Meet for coffee. Meet for people here. Keep coming. Invest on yourself. That's the one important thing. One last thing I end up with is, if you work hard, tomorrow is yours, otherwise others. That was when I started my career. If you do smart work, tomorrow is yours. That's what I learned. Now, if you do smart, hard work with AI, is the coming generation. With that note, let us go for the next panel session. Please, I'm here to help anything, anytime. Please come on, join as a members or whatever, and explore yourself. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sri. You're so amazing and inspiring. Thank you for all your energy and dynamism and all that you do for the chamber. So next up, super excited to invite Geeta Lal up on the stage. Her company, Damon, apologies for my earlier mishap, Data Management is a leading data and analytics company, and she does magic. So if you have any data analytics, AI-related questions, go see Geeta. So Geeta, I'll let you introduce our panelists right up on stage, but if you can, Neeraj Jaitley, Atul Kapoor, Vivian Namle, and last but not the least, Mark Lewick, if you can please come up and introduce yourself. But Geeta, if you could introduce Damon first.
We have 30 minutes and 4 panelists who have a lot to offer this audience. For Damon, I'll just say that we've been around 30 years. We are a homegrown Texas company focused in what everybody thinks is the most important piece of the AI puzzle, which is data and enterprise data. And we've been investing in data as an asset for our clients for the better part of 3 decades. So if you want to talk about that, come catch up with me later. But for right now, let me invite our panelists up on the stage. We have Mark Lewick, who is CISO in residence at Zscaler, annual sponsor of the chamber, and of course, significant presence in security. Milind Damle, who is Senior Director, Software and Solutions at AMD. Atul, where are you, Atul? Atul Kapoor, who is Chief Segment Officer at LTTS. And Neeraj Jaitley, Head of Engineering at Amazon. Did we lose a panelist? Ah, here. There we go. So this panel has something to do with AI in the enterprise. And I think the one thing that became immediately obvious after the keynote, after the first panel, is we are at a point where we are looking at an infrastructure build out rarely seen or never seen previously in human history. The numbers being thrown out are all in the billions. And when we look forward, we know that infrastructure build out is in the trillions. Where the rubber meets the road is in the enterprise. Where are all these trillions going to actually exhibit ROI? Now, if we look back historically, this is only a 5-year journey, right? 2022 was when ChatGPT and, people talked about magic. Those were the magic years, the first 2 years where everybody was enthralled by, a chatbot for everything. And then we get to 2024, the trough of disillusionment and the entire thing of, MIT saying 95% of all pilots don't return ROI. And then we get to 2025, and suddenly the vibe in the room is completely different. We are now at the point where those early experiments have changed completely into serious expectations in the enterprise. And that's what we are here to talk about, is how do you realize these very serious expectations for very serious ROI on very serious investments in various serious companies. So I'm going to get started with a question which is really about the last 12 to 18 months. You'll notice our panel is actually a very diverse panel, and people have been talking about this AI layer cake. I think everybody prior to this conversation talked about it. It's Jensen Huang's favorite metaphor for the AI world. He talked about it at Davos as well. And we've literally got a person from each layer in the cake. So we won't talk about energy, but every other layer is represented out here. So we'll start with that lowest layer, Milind, which is around silicon. The general question is, in the last 12 to 18 months, what are some of the fundamental changes that you are seeing in your layer that have fundamentally shifted the equation at the enterprise level, where people can talk about real returns? I know you like to talk about heterogeneous computing. We talked about AI on the edge. So some of those themes would be great to start with.
Thank you, Ishi, for that tip. Is this loud enough? I'm trying to imbibe some of the energy from Sri here. He set an example for all of us. To answer her question, right, I think some of the most fundamental shifts we are seeing compared to 5-10 years ago at the infrastructure, at the silicon, at the software level is just the pace at which things are being released. We've heard about the 2-year cadence of new chips, new silicon. That's accelerated to a year and shrinking. And so, notwithstanding the capacity logjam in Taiwan, I think everybody is trying to fix that problem of how soon we can release products at a faster cadence, and not just incremental, but at a major feature changing and technology advancing scale. That, I think, is the most fundamental thing I'm seeing in the last 18 months.
Can you speak a little bit about heterogeneous computing? Because we're in this world, we're clearly in a world of agentic and compound AI systems. They're super token hungry systems. What are you doing at AMD that's kind of addressing that? Maybe talk a little bit about the GPU emphasis shifting maybe to CPU or being complemented by, if you can.
That's an excellent question, and I was hoping Geeta would get there. Thank you. So first of all, a quick teaser. In the room, if you think AI is synonymous with GPUs, please raise your hand.
Oh, this is an educated audience.
All right, just a couple of hands. I'm super happy that the majority did not raise their hands. And that segues into my response, right? So at AMD and other companies, what we are seeing is an explosion in terms of the accelerators. So GPUs, of course, suck all the oxygen from the AI room. But a lesser known fact perhaps is that CPUs and purpose-built accelerators form the backbone of the AI infrastructure, where super high throughput, super low latencies are not the only metric. The other accelerators, CPU platforms, for example, deliver excellent value. So those are some of the trends I want this audience to take away, that it's not just GPUs. Although GPUs are fantastic, we make them too, but there are other things there.
Let's shift to the next layer in the cake, right, which is the entire cloud infrastructure. It's really where silicon actually adds value. The big problem was always orchestration sort of at that level. Talk a little bit, Neeraj, about what Amazon is doing to facilitate that for your enterprise clients.
Amazon is a large company. It's hard to talk about all the things. Sure. Can you hear me okay?
I think perhaps you need to turn it off. It may not be on.
Can you hear me okay now?
Perfect.
So AI stops working here. So I cannot talk about Amazon because it's a big company and it's impossible to see what they are working on at a macro level. I can only talk about what we worked on for the last few years. We worked on bringing AI to at least two fields, which was Amazon security, on how can we do security at scale, where human scaling may not be feasible. It's not feasible at all. And second thing is right now working on robotics, on how can AI come to robotics and bring in the value that is not realized otherwise by humans doing the work.
Okay, we'll come back to the security question because I think after I've asked Mark this question, we're probably going to revert back to you on this. Although from your perspective, what is fundamentally shifting? LTTS, if you look at what you talk about and in terms of physical AI, about bringing AI to the physical space, to engineering solutions, that kind of thing. What has shifted for you in the last 12 or 18 months that you can with confidence bring AI solutions to these physical systems because, obviously the demands on reliability, security, etc. is just exponentially greater in these physical environments?
Right. So I think the most important thing for us to understand is that AI is now out of the POC era, right? That's very critical for us to understand. It's out of the lab now. It's in the real world. Nobody's asking whether AI can do this or not. The question is, why is AI not doing this for me today? And that's a major, major shift as we see. From a macro perspective, there are two or three things that has happened over the years. What has really happened is that now we see a reliable AI in place. The wow factor of AI is going behind us in the hype cycle, right? Every time there's something about, there's no wow about it. Oh, AI can do this. Well, AI can't do this. Question is, can it do it reliably? And that's what I think the world is seeing now. AI is doing stuff reliably. There's also this whole understanding that one generic agent is not good enough. And therefore, there are specialized agents out there doing specific pieces of the job. And they're able to work synchronously. I think that's a huge, huge plus. And that's a huge shift that's happening. And the third is, obviously, like you pointed out rightly, Eva, it's moving to the physical world. People can see it reliably happening out there. We can see AI moving to products. We can see AI moving to plants and factories. We can see AI moving to, we worked on a digital twin for our patients' personalized lungs so that we could do bronchoscopy out there. So it's becoming very, very tangible. So I think that's the major shift that we are seeing now, and it's becoming very, very real.
Sounds good. So Mark, here we have a bunch of things. Oh, you can't. Is that better? Yep. Okay. So the question is for Mark. So everything that's been said so far is kind of creating nightmare scenarios for people like Mark, right? So we're going from a few agents to thousands of agents running around with all kinds of agency, autonomy, and authorizations and permissions, right? We are talking about AI operating in the physical world rather than just in the data and systems world. So suddenly the stakes are higher when they're actually running a plant or running transportation systems or what have you. So what, Mark, has changed in the security paradigm to actually address this very significant shift in how enterprises do work?
Well, I'm first going to answer your question by doubling down on what you just said, and that the way security has changed over the past 40 years is fundamentally one through evolution. It's grown, it's gotten better at what it's done, but I'll give you a little secret. The company that I work for, Zscaler, has got this whole revolution of the way we deliver security, the zero trust, cloud-based security, but fundamentally we're doing the same thing we've done for 40 years, just doing it differently. AI represents an entirely different problem, an entirely different set of solutions, an entirely different level of complexity. And just the fact that it's opening up a new attack surface is one thing. The fact that when you bring in the fact that all those little attack surfaces are going to be talking to each other and coming up with conclusions on their own and then delivering that back makes the problem even larger. And I would say the first instinct of a security person is say, whoa, let's slow down, let's put on the brakes, let's try to figure something out before we make a mistake. And that will be a mistake itself. Security, unfortunately, has to accelerate. Security has to get really good at figuring out what this means. And I think the word I'd like everybody to understand is what guardrails are, what guardrails should be. I'm quite proud. I loved the Mr. Mahendra's session on the AI in, AI of, AI with, etc. That's great. We have a very similar philosophy that's together, and I'm really proud that our guardrails early on, how we train, what data we're going to train on, where data is going to live, where tenant data, one customer's data will never be used to train another customer. These are the guardrails we set up years ago, and we're still holding true. You, as consumers, as users, as developers, as creators of AI, have to set those guardrails early, and you have to set them in a way that it's embedded in your organization, because otherwise you are going to fail the 4 fundamental requirements that we need to adhere to. You should not be harming the business. You should not be harming your employees. You should not be harming your consumers, and you should not be harming society in general. And that is unfortunately a big, complex task.
Yeah, Neeraj is nodding his head and ready to dive in. So yeah, go ahead and dive in. I would love to hear your perspective on this.
Totally aligned with what I just heard mentioned. It's not a choice anymore, because the AI is one aspect, but the reasoning aspect of that is so fundamental shift in the way we were thinking about computer software before. When a software can reason about things just like humans can, attack surface areas multiply overnight. So that means adversarial impacts, adversarial vectors have exponentially grown overnight. By the time we started this panel and by the time we finished this panel, things would have changed so much. It is impossible for humans to comprehend, number one. And number two, to stay up to date with those things. So that's why I don't think it's a choice anymore. We have to invest in that so that we can at least stay on the competitive edge of AI to continue to earn customer trust, because customers are trusting, as you mentioned, a lot of data to different enterprises. So customer trust upkeep has certainly gone up exponentially from what it was a few years ago.
So I'm not going to run away from the security conversation too quickly, because I think as we talk about scaling AI in the enterprise, it's one of the most fundamental challenges that everyone faces. How do we build the right paradigms around it? Figuring out what we are protecting. Are we protecting data? Are we protecting reality? How are we viewing agents? Is the view a software view or a workforce view, right? So let me open the door on that. We've previously had a systems and software view of security. Now, when you think about agents, and I know Amazon's kind of thinking of it this way, you're thinking of agents as part of your workforce. Each of them has an identity. Each of them has risk factors associated with it. Talk to us a little bit about that paradigm and what that does to the security model and how you think about agentic compound systems.
So just like humans can reason, think about agents can also reason about things. Now, let's take an example. I'm not talking about security, I'm talking about in general. If I go to see a doctor in general in real life, and I say my chief complaint is I've got a stomach ache, a doctor will ask the next question, okay, when did it start? Where is it? Upper, lower, left, right? So that's a reasoning question that doctors will be doing as a human based on their medical education for so many years. Few years ago, AI could not do that. Now, AI can do that with reasoning, and the more data they see, they can reason a lot more accurately, a lot more precisely. But the challenge is everything looks rosy because the way they communicate with so much conviction, even if false positive is communicated to that, it must be true. So we question our own ability maybe if the AI is saying, maybe it's true. So that's why it's very important to also figure out how do you validate the AI's reasoning capabilities just to make sure they are non-deterministic in nature. How do you build deterministic methods to make sure is this reliable enough? I heard one of my panelists mention that reliability or accuracy is really important. And I think we are all trying to figure out how to make it accurate and reliable because there are multiple strategies for that. Everybody's playing with different strategies with different level of success in there. But I think it will just take some time for different use cases to mature at their own pace to have reliable output from an AI system. Like, for example, would you like an AI system to operate on you? Probably not. Not at this moment. Maybe a few years down the road, might be. So again, we are going through the maturity curve enterprises to build more reliability into those systems. But we are there already.
Fair enough. And we might come back further to crack this particular nut. But, everyone's talking about reasoning and how we've gone from inference to reasoning. And reasoning models is a major change that's occurred in our landscape. Milind, I'm going to punt this back to you because what reasoning does, it also explodes our token usage, right? So the entire cost paradigm is also shifting, right? With a reasoning model, there's a lot of hidden tokens that are used. Talk to us a little bit about cost management in this environment. How can we be more cost efficient? That's another scaling, a wall in front of most enterprises.
That's another great question. I think as we are going from pure inference to reasoning, there's another trend which I'm sure the folks in the room have caught on, which is not just an increase or explosion in terms of the parameter size of models getting larger and larger and being more data center centric. There's also a trend towards smaller models, different models which employ a mixture of experts, for example. So what we are seeing now is a trend towards purpose-built, better matched models. We are seeing a trend towards models being pushed to the edge so that all the inference and all the reasoning need not necessarily happen only in the data center. So those are the trends we are seeing, and those will have profound implications for not just cost, but also scale and also where things get done.
Thanks for that. So, we've kind of got security as a barrier, we've got, as a challenge, we've got cost management as a challenge. The third aspect is more an organizational thing, and for that, I'm going to go back to you, Atul. Most organizations are dealing with legacy environments, right? All of us are dealing with, 20-year-old ERP systems, a 10-year-old data warehouse, data governance that hasn't caught up. That's my world, right? Most of our clients are in varying stages of that. So when you are actually taking these cutting edge and leading edge AI solutions to your clients, what are the major barriers you're seeing? Is it this legacy debt, this operational debt floating around? Is it workforce unable to keep up pace with AI workflows that are optimized for AI? Talk a little bit about those kinds of challenges.
See, the technical debt, irrespective of AI being there or not being there, has been there, was there all the time, will continue to be there, right? And the layers of the cake, as Jensen has really promoted. I have a sweet tooth myself, so I don't mind. But having said that, I think the idiosyncrasy is around the application layer is that there's a lot of non-technical human element associated with that. When you talk about the foundational blocks, whether it's the silicon or it's the infrastructure at large, you're still talking, delving, interacting with technical people, right? But when it comes to the application layer, you're talking not always to the technical people, right? People who are getting impacted, people who are getting weary, people could be impacted from multiple perspectives, whether it's social perspective, economic perspective, work profile perspective, whatever. I think that's the challenge which at least we are witnessing is the biggest challenge, obstacle for us to cross. Technical debt, I wouldn't say it's not, it's an issue. You know it better than I do. You've been juggling with data all your life. But that's something that's a little bit surmountable. You can put wrappers around the technical stuff, right? Legacy. But when it comes to people who are risk averse, people who are used to control rather than delivering outputs, people who are used to specific kinds of workflows, right? Those are the things that we are witnessing is a little bit of a challenge that we continue to address with some of our partners.
So I'll do a quick poll on all of you on this particular topic, because all of us are talking about who was it who presented like 2028 we're going to have 30% of all organizations will have autonomous workflows or what have you. There are various numbers. Essentially, we're going towards autonomous enterprises, right? So to get there, just a quick round robin. If you had to pick what the primary challenge is for enterprises, or the most significant challenge amongst the ones we've just talked about, just quickly, Mark.
Well, it's going to be obvious what my biggest challenge is going to be is how we govern and how we enforce that governance on the AI we use, both inside the organization and outside the organization. Remember that not everyone is going to be an AI superpower. We will be perfectly able to succeed by leveraging other people's AI superpowers, and that has to be governed as well. So yes, for me, it's governance.
Okay, Milind.
For me, it's the same sort of challenge which I've seen enterprises grapple with, which is they find different barriers to adoption, whether it's at the technical level, whether it's security, whether it's human factors. So we have to encourage enterprises to adopt AI, overcoming those specific barriers.
Okay. Atul, I think you already voted.
It's operational and embracing it, primarily. That's what I said.
Neeraj?
I think lack of clarity. AI just happens to be the new shiny ball. Few years ago, it was mobile computing. Few years ago, it was web computing. So whenever the new technology comes, people are attracted towards that. Executives are attracted towards that. It takes a while for them to figure out, okay, how the hell should I make a use of that? So I think people can understand ChatGPT because it's a consumer application. And I have met many of my friends whose companies are still struggling trying to figure out, okay, this AI is there, we have to use it, don't know where, don't know how. How part is easy, but where part, they're still struggling with that. So I think it will take some level of maturity and some level of time. So people to come out of the hype cycle and figure out, okay, these are the maybe 2 or 3 cases where I can start experimenting with those areas.
Okay, so back to the use case definition issue that we heard from our keynote earlier today. Ishi, how are we doing on time? Oh, a couple of minutes. Okay. So use case definition as a primary challenge. Let's talk a little bit about how we facilitate enterprises to get there, right? Because just based on the previous panel, right, there's this steam engine coming at us. It's going to roll over all of us, and this is going to happen whether we like it or not. Do you think that that's really true? Are we going to get to the autonomous enterprise by 2028? People already say we've got 82 agents for every human in the enterprise right now, and we are all getting there. Do you believe in that? Do you think it's 2028, or do you think it's further out? I'll do a round robin on this again. Start with you.
I'll go last.
Oh, you'll go last on this. All right. Mark, you're it.
I think 2028, at the moment, I don't see dates as any particular use at all. Things are moving in far too fluid. But what I would say is that although I've sounded a bit doom and gloom, we're talking about the challenge and how complex it is, actually, there is a huge amount of development and a huge amount of work going in to help you achieve what I've been talking about. The industry is not sitting on its hands. The challenge is new. The attack surface is new. As I said, these are new challenges because we're no longer looking at deterministic security solutions to solve deterministic compute. We're now having to solve the authenticity challenge, which is more like insider threat. But that technology is there. You can go right now and achieve some of these things right now. So I think from a date perspective, too fluid, too much change happening right now. But from what you can do now, there are things.
Milind?
You said 82. I think the right answer is 42.
Oh, in terms of number of agents to humans?
In terms of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Very well played.
Sorry for the facetious response. But I think, like I said, the barriers to adoption for enterprises remain the same. Whether it's one technology, as Neeraj mentioned, the nature and the shape of the technology changes, but the fear factors and the enterprise nature is constant behind those. So one of the things that we are doing as a company, and it's not just a plug for AMD, is we really believe in the open ecosystem. And what we're doing is we're embracing that with open source software. We're putting it all out there. So there is traceability, there is verification that's possible, which is not the case if you're behind a closed source.
Thanks. Atul?
See, the question is how autonomous is autonomous, right? There's a spectrum
Fair enough.
when it comes to autonomy, right? And therefore, it's a very subjective question. It's easier for an organization which is AI first, gets started as an AI first, and lives its life as an AI first organization. But an entity which is a legacy entity, large entity which has not come up as an AI first entity, for it to convert into AI first, and I can be more vocal about it. I don't think it's happening in 28. Absolutely not. That's my take on it. Having said that, I think what is going to be important for us to make sure that it happens very quickly is one, reliability, but also the other is responsibility. We're looking for reliable AI, but we're also looking for responsible AI. That is what is going to let people embrace AI and make the progression much faster.
I agree with what you mentioned. So there is no specific date per such, but every industry segment will behave a little bit differently. Within industry segment, the use cases will evolve and behave differently in terms of getting to the level of autonomy. Most likely the lower risk use cases, for example, Uber driver, it shows up 2 minutes late, but it's AI driven, it's not life threatening. It may be the first to adopt to AI from a full autonomy standpoint. Operating on humans may be much further out. So I would say depending upon use case basis, but there is no specific timeline as Mark really mentioned in there. Lower risk use cases will be probably getting to the autonomy much faster. Somebody may have already gone there by the time we finish the panel session.
That is true. Well, on that note, I have to thank all our panelists out here. I have to say for myself, I've started thinking AI first in terms of internal operations. Almost every workflow, I look at it and say, is this something we could intelligently automate? I don't mean just automate, but AI enable or AI replace. And I have started taking that view also with the human force. And that's just me. So I'm thinking, for people who run public companies, there's a lot of hunger for return. And this is a very attractive thought path to go down. So it's going to be interesting to see how much momentum builds up in the enterprise over the next few years and how far we get towards that autonomous enterprise. And on that note, thank you all for listening and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geeta, and to all of our amazing panelists. And from one amazing panel to another, I'd like to next call on Ujjwal Rajbandari to the stage. He's the Chief Product Officer at Autonomize AI, and Autonomize AI is also a sponsor, so thank you so much for supporting the Chamber. Ujjwal, why don't you go ahead and introduce all of our amazing panelists and as I get them on the stage.
Can you all hear me? All right. Well, thank you very much, Ishi. I'm very excited to be here. Last year, we were recognized and honored definitely by this organization as one of the leading AI startups here based in Austin, Texas. Autonomize AI, we're in the whole business of transforming healthcare operations, leveraging our agentic AI platform. We've been in business roughly about, I would say, three plus years. And we're very excited, to see the landscape of, how AI has shaped Austin startup scene. And today we're going to be focused primarily on talking about startups and AI and the entrepreneur behind the AI startups themselves, right? So I have a great set of panelists here.
Sorry, a quick programming note. We have dinner after all the panels are over, so definitely stick around. But I would like to request everyone who's standing in the back, we do have seats sprinkled throughout, so please feel free to grab a seat, be comfortable, get a drink, and obviously stay for dinner because, it's a US-India thing and any Indian thing is never over without food. Thank you.
That's a lot of pressure. I'm standing between you and your dinner. That's what I'm hearing right now. All right. So We'll make this very, very exciting. So let me introduce our panelists quickly, and I'll give them a chance to maybe talk about their work and what they do today. So we have, very far from me, Ismi Lee from TikTok. She manages small and medium businesses for North America and LATAM. We have Sandeep Goyal, CEO at Maverick.ai. We have Paula Aretes from Live Oak Ventures, and then we have Hansel Corella, Chief Product Officer at Elevation AI. So let me just grab a seat and we'll start. So I would love, Hansel, maybe you could start off by giving a quick introduction to yourself and Elevation AI.
Sure. Hi, good evening. So yeah, I'm an MIT engineer and economist that's been doing product management and entrepreneurship for over the last 20 years. I recently left a pretty successful LEMD telehealth platform, grew that to 100 million ARR, and left purely because I thought AI was the future. And so at Elevation, we are not only investing in AI startups, but we decided to also be an AI startup. And we're trying to tackle some of the challenges that you just heard, helping enterprise, particularly in the financial space, adopt AI. And that is centralizing their data, securing it, and giving them all those agents we talked about to do all their workflows.
Great. Paula, please.
Awesome. Pleasure to be among this group. We are in the supporting cast group. I'm with Live Oak Ventures, and we're an early stage firm investing in seed, Series A startups and Texas-based founders. I come through the traditional investment realm, started out my career in public equity investing before making over to the dark side, if you will, in early stage venture. First at a firm called Iron Spring doing industrial tech and construction tech, where I was employee number one, and then went off to business school and joined Live Oak 3 years ago.
Sandeep, please.
Yeah, good to meet everybody. Sandeep Goel, I'm the CEO of Maverick. We're an Austin startup, and I'm really happy to be here because we are ourselves an AI startup, but we work with other AI startups to help them better manage their AI spend. So really, really happy to be here and share our best practices.
Amazing.
Ismi, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Esme. I'm assuming some of you might know of this little company called TikTok. So I have the pleasure of working with TikTok, worked with TikTok for the last 5.5 years. You see SMB as part of my role. I work with small and medium businesses. What does that mean? It means helping businesses use TikTok and understand how to reach their customers. But also with that comes the pleasure of meeting a lot of startups and understanding how they're navigating the universe of everything that we're all talking about today. I've been dedicated to small and medium businesses for 17 years. That's the completely nerding out on it. I'm not an engineer, so a lot of that tech speak just now over my head. But I can tell you the real world sort of, experience of working with a lot of founders and everyone that's passionate about the space. You just need to know the relevance of it. I am not an engineer, like I said, a psychology major who learned business and got into a little bit of anthropology, and here I am. So there you go.
Great. Thank you very much. So you can see we have a pretty exciting and diverse panel here today, right? So we're going to be talking about AI entrepreneurial startups here, right? So when I talk, one of the things I remember from, I think, end of last year when I was at NVIDIA event, they mentioned that there are over 25,000 AI startups that are registered as part of NVIDIA Inception program, right? So with that in mind, when we talk about an AI first startup, what does that mean to you all, right? So this kind of to the entire panel.
I can go first. So I think for me, there's a real binary test here. It's a really good question. If you are a legacy software company and you've added a chatbot interface to your product, that is not particularly interesting. I would not describe that as like an AI-centric company. For me, the test is, are you doing something technologically that is now possible with AI that used to not be possible? If you're just doing the same thing faster, cheaper, that may be valuable, but that's not That's not AI centric. AI centric is fundamentally you're solving a new problem. And a corollary to that would be you might be solving a problem that is now solvable. It was like a micro vertical application that was not cost effective to solve before, and now it is because of the faster, cheaper that AI gives you. But faster, cheaper is not the root of it. It's just a symptom.
I'm happy to follow with that. So we think about it in kind of three different buckets, if you will. So you have the AI foundational companies, including your LLM, companies. We are not seeing a lot of that activity in Texas. Then you have like AI tooling and orchestration layer, and we have some investments in that category, but by and large, the biggest bucket that we see in Texas is just AI applications. And I would say it's hard to define what it means to be, AI first in this age. It's a continuum. It's not black or white, and we see companies, very similarly. If you're like AI native, that we define as that structural dependency test. Are you doing something that was previously not possible with the existing, technology? And you're able to do that with, AI, agentic AI, because there's something about that, generative probabilistic element that helps you deliver more value. And then, every company in the portfolio, whether it's legacy software, is somehow AI enhanced, very table stakes. Everyone in our engineering teams in different functional areas is adopting AI tooling to become more efficient. And, there's everything in between. So that's how I describe it.
Thank you.
So I can go. This is less as me as part of TikTok and more as an investor myself. The way I evaluate it is maybe a little extreme, which is if you take out the AI powered or the AI component of your business and it still exists, then it's not AI first. It needs to be absolutely integrated into the business and the model itself. So that's how I evaluate it.
I think I would agree with all the panelists. I just want to add, even if you're AI enabled or AI enhanced, that's okay too. So not all of you have to be AI first, but I do agree with how they framed it.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question, right? So we always hear nowadays a company of two out of a garage is now a unicorn, right? And we're seeing, many leverage AI to sort of compress time to market. And this speed and this ability kind of cuts both ways, right? So from your experience, what should founders not compromise when it comes to speed? What should they slow down so they get it right the very first time when they're looking at their organization and their products?
I can maybe get started. I think there's so many answers to that, and we've heard so much of that shared already in some of the previous panels. But maybe a few thoughts. One, knowing the problem that you're truly solving for and having an ability to go back to it and keep that at the core. Because I think what I'm realizing is there is a higher propensity to be distracted by the shininess of everything else that's possible. That's probably the most important. And I think something that Sri mentioned, which is the people and the human aspect of it, the ability to use human intuition to then make the right decisions, to problem solve and iterate as quickly as possible. So I think the human aspect of being able to reason through, iterate, and move quickly, I think that's probably most critical.
So I think for me, it's actually, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
So I think leveraging AI to sort of accelerate time to market, but what don't you want to compromise?
Yeah. So two things. One is speed. You mentioned speed. That's true for your competitors too. So speed for speed's sake is not that interesting. What I would argue you need to do is really understand the domain that you're solving for. Do you understand the existing human workflow? Do you understand how your solution is going to plug into that workflow? If you don't understand that, you're going to run really, really fast in the wrong direction.
Wholeheartedly agree with that. I would say in terms of speed, it's just, it's made our job as investors that much harder because it really put to the forefront this question of defensibility and how do you build and accrue, sustainable enterprise value. I would say, in some ways, the things that you shouldn't compromise on haven't changed. It's going back to the fundamentals of, understanding your customer, solving a real pain point, proving ROI, and agree with being deeply, deeply entrenched in a workflow. Just not compromising on understanding what problem you're solving.
I'm going to try to be a little bit more controversial and say speed for speed's sake is a value. And I think you have to move really fast, but also agree with what they said about the fundamentals are even more important now. You have to be solving a real problem. And one place that really showed me this was Bangalore. I spent most of November, half of December in India, so I'm so happy to be here because I was missing the food. No, but really, because in Bangalore, everyone is just doing things for the sake of doing things. Everyone is playing with AI and going really fast. And you might say, hey, they might be running in the wrong direction, but when they hit the wall, they just bounce and they go the other direction. And I see it almost like a petri dish of just all this like beautiful fungi and flora constantly popping in and out of existence. And they're getting really interesting ideas. And I think there is some value in just that. So obviously, if you're a startup, fundamentals, product market fit is very important. But also, if you're just dabbling in AI and can make a couple bucks by learning something, I think you should try.
Well, thank you very much, right? At Autonomize also, we have a focus on intensity. I don't know if it directly translates to speed, but intensity is something like where we really, that's a word that everyone uses daily to sort of, in every action that we take, it has to be very intentful and done with some level of intensity. Especially because we're in healthcare, our customers are a little bit on the slower side, right? So there's a little bit of aversion to change, and so we have to drive with intensity. But great insight from everybody. This is for you, Esme. From your perspective, TikTok being a great platform, how do you see AI sort of shape and change the rate at which the startups are actually finding customers and actually reaching their customer through a platform like TikTok?
Yeah, so there's a lot happening on the platform, but maybe I can give some more tangible examples. So I work mostly on the ad side of the business. So we are building solutions that make it easy, make it take away the guesswork on what an average business that's trying to reach their customers can come and do on TikTok. And so a lot of the workflows right now is focused on automation and ease, right? How do you, like I said, just put in a few sort of key inputs or objectives that a business wants to attain, and essentially then help the system essentially churns out, finds you the right customer, finds you the right audience, and delivers the result. In all of that, I think one of the things that we've also been very focused on is leaving some room for relevance versus precision. I think those are two very different things in how humans interact with content just generally, and TikTok is a content platform. So a lot of how a user, us, any of you who use TikTok, if you're going on TikTok, you sometimes go with the intention of consuming a certain set of information that you want or are interested in. And a large part of the time, you are coming across information that you never knew you were interested in, and you're consuming it because something sparks interest and you engage. How does a brand then take advantage of that beautiful magic that happens? I think that's what we're building for. And making it, because that person then becomes your audience, right? And so making that quicker, easier, needing much less technical knowledge. I don't know how many of you do marketing, but marketing has changed and evolved quite a bit. But the need for businesses to do that at the pace versus know what product or solution they're bringing to their customers, I think keeping that core to the core of a business is what we're building for right now.
Great. No, thank you very much. Thank you. So kind of maybe going back to all the panelists here, right? what we also notice from our vantage point is, going back to that 25,000 inception partners at NVIDIA, AI has made it easy for many startups to build similar products faster, right? There's a lot of overlap between many startups. And what we're also seeing is, talent has started to become that differentiator within those startups. So from your perspective, like, what is that one talent decision or one talent capability that you see in startups that actually go to build something that's durable or that has some advantages that differentiates themselves?
Should I go? So for me, I'll just speak for how we're running Maverick. From a talent perspective, we're looking for specialists. I think a lot of the generalist roles are going away or increasingly getting automated. So for us, we're looking for very, very specialized technical expertise or very, very deep domain expertise. It's usually one or the other. But if you're a generalist marketer, generalist software developer, those roles are not ones that we're really looking for or nurturing. And the other part of the answer, I think, is we are looking for talent that is using AI in their jobs. So even if it's not directly applicable to our product, we want people that are thinking and breathing AI and not just talking about it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You have to go deep. You have to go really deep. And you have to just use the tool for anything. I mean, I personally thought to myself, how do I get deep with AI? I mean, I've been in the field for a while, but I just started building software solutions for my friends and family. Like literally, like, what do you guys do? What's a problem that I can automate for you? And I just did it. You have to just start doing it. And so when we hire for talent, we look for someone who's gone really, really deep in one aspect of either the technology or the domain that we are in. Yeah.
I would, yes, agree. It goes back to the question of, that sustainable value. And if you believe that, core to that is the understanding of a user experience and, the workflow and understanding of the problem that you're solving, that domain expertise comes in incredibly handy. And I would agree with also, AI first talent. Ironically, I think there's, in more technical roles, some hesitation to, go and adopt AI. And, that speed of development just makes all the difference.
SB, anything from your side?
No, I think we're good.
All right, sounds good. So, Hansel, this is specifically for you. I know you just came back from touring the Bay Area and then promoting Elevation AI there, and you're back in Austin. I think you kind of have a very special perspective on how the Bay Area differentiates from Austin and the startup scene here. Maybe can you enlighten us a little bit in terms of what you're noticing there that's a little bit different from here, both in terms of domain, sort of the technology that's coming up, as well as maybe even what the investors are looking for there versus here.
Sure. I think what I liked about my time in the Bay Area is that everyone is assuming it's already going to happen, right? There isn't a conversation about, oh, are people going to adopt AI? It's there, right? And also I've noticed last time I was just there last week that the conversation has also shifted about the cliche, oh, are we all going to lose our jobs, et cetera, right? Like, that's not going to happen, right? Software is still going to be here. If you look historically, when any technology becomes cheap, and software has become cheap, there's just more volume and consumption of it, right? So American homes used to have one TV in the living room, then TVs became really cheap. Now when you have one TV in every room, right? It doesn't mean less TVs are sold, it means more TVs are sold. So even at the application layer, we're gonna have more applications, more software consumption. So they've kind of accepted that fact, and now they're moved on to like, okay, what does the average life of an employee at a corporation look like now if they're no longer managing just humans, they're managing agents, right? And so now you got to think about, okay, what is, the workflow, the hiring strategies, management strategies, even HR strategies when you're not looking at a human workforce, but rather an agentic workforce. And so I like how they just kind of accept it as being true. That being said, I think Austin has a lot to offer. That's why Elevation AI is here. And a little bone to pick with perhaps the first panel. I think Texas has a lot to offer also on the innovation, the application, the digital, the models. There's a great model company here in Austin, not just in the infrastructure and the energy production. So I'm actually born and raised in Texas, from El Paso, equally close from Los Angeles as it is to Houston, where I live now. That's how big Texas is. So I get to see both sides, and I'm not willing to cede the throne to innovation and software to the Bay Area. I think we can do it here in Austin.
That's great. That is very, very good, right? I mean, for all the Texans out here, I think this is a proof point, right? I mean, for someone to actually come and build a very successful, startup out here in Austin, Texas itself. I think going back to the fact that you mentioned there's a model company here in Austin itself. This is for you, Sandeep, right? So we're definitely seeing some commoditization happening with models themselves, right? So how do you see startups actually creating durable value as they are becoming an AI startup, right?
You got to think about what's the differentiation, what's the moat. I'm not a big believer in I'm the first mover in an idea and that's durable. There's got to be more than that. So if your business is the same set of LLMs, the same GPUs, solving the same problems, that to me is not exciting. So with the companies that I personally invest in, I'm looking for like micro vertical applications where you can combine domain expertise with the enabling technology and solve a unique problem. And even if somebody uses the same underlying technology, they're not going to be able to replicate your domain expertise. So I'm looking for the combination of both, not just we're using AI and going faster, cheaper.
Got it. Now, I think Ishmi is kind of looking at me and saying that I don't have too much time left. But one person I definitely want to ask, and I think everybody wants to hear from here, is from Paula, right? So, what concrete proof do you look from an investment side when you are evaluating these kind of companies? What are you actually looking for?
Yes. So, building on that point on defensibility, you have to have just a moat that you're thinking about, and it can come in a couple of different ways. One version that I've seen, and we've funded a couple of companies that fit this profile, is there is a data moat that, accrues over time because you are at the point of the decision and you're able to codify knowledge that was previously only available to humans because the decision logic is just so complex that it wasn't able to be solved with just a purely deterministic system. And so in terms of the data points that we look for in order to assess that, we are early stage investors. We can and do invest, sometimes product pre-revenue, all the way through, product market fit and scaling. And so it's hard to say, but we are very, product obsessed, and that comes with usage, engagement, ROI. Those are, the strong fundamentals. And, exciting areas are areas where you have, the things that you weren't possible before. So you have a large number of humans doing a task that is somewhat repetitive, but it's too complex to have been, automated by software. That's I think a good ripe area for disruption with an AI first company.
Thank you very much. Before we get ushered off the stage, one really last question, right? For all y'all. So if you all had an opportunity to ban one AI specific word from our vocabulary, buzzword, what would that be?
AI powered. It's the baseline of what we're talking about. It's like saying internet powered. I mean, that's the reality now.
I don't have one word. I have a sentence, if that's okay. I think there's an assumption that AI has a wildly positive ROI or wildly negative ROI, and the truth is in the middle, and people have to do the hard work and measure it.
I think in a B2B enterprise context, autonomous agents that do everything automatically from day one is a fallacy, and they work, just really well in demo environments, but not really in practice. So I would eliminate that.
That sounds like my day sometimes.
I don't know if I have a word. I just chatbots, AI chatbots. I don't know if we should stop saying the word or we should just stop using them. I think probably the latter. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, thank you very much all. Let's give a round of applause to all our panelists. I think Ishi's going to now usher you all into the dining hall, but
No, we have one more.
Oh, you do? All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for this round.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ismi, Paula, Sandeep, Hansel, and of course, Ujwal. That was terrific. Please go and meet all of these amazing speakers. They bring so much value, and that's why we're all here. We want to introduce you to all of these amazing leaders. And last but not the least, I'd like to call upon the stage Chirag Shah. He is our board secretary, and he is going to be doing a quick but super valuable fireside chat with Jeff Cotton. He is the CEO of Pros Holdings. Pros Holdings is based in Houston, but he is in Austin. And they just led their startup through a successful exit. They just got acquired for $1.4 billion. Billion, not million. So, Jeff, I'm so excited for you to come on stage and talk about how do you really scale AI forward and AI first companies. Welcome to Austin and welcome to this chamber. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ishi, and good evening, everyone. I think I'm officially the last person standing between your session and the dinner that I can smell from here. So I promise I will keep it short, sweet, and up to the point. And as my colleague Ishi said, this is about a $1.4 billion deal. So let's tune in and see how real deals are done. I mean, we had incredible sessions earlier during the evening about AI, its impact, infrastructure, but this is about deal making, what goes behind the scenes, how companies are acquired. And I'm really interested in that because I've heard a lot about AI, but I also want to hear, how deals done. So it is my pleasure to introduce a seasoned executive who has led multiple companies across startups and enterprise. He's a seasoned CEO with multiple roles, Chief Revenue Officer at Rackspace, Chief Executive Officer at Tenfold, which got acquired, CEO of Alvira and Aspect, formerly known as Aspect, and as Ishi said, more recently, CEO of Pros Holdings, which got acquired for $1.4 billion by a PE firm named Thoma Bravo TV. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Jeff Cotton, CEO of Pros. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Can you hear me? All right, good. It's good to be here. Thank you. Really appreciate the warm welcome and looking forward to the discussion. Hopefully, we'll get you to dinner quick.
Yeah. I think, do you want to sit down or do you want to stand up? What do you want to do?
Dan, whatever.
Okay, I think we can stand up, right? So, Jeff, thank you again for, driving in from Houston last minute. I know we had some crazy weather last couple of days.
Yep.
And you're really making time and, coming in for this last minute. So really appreciate that, Jeff.
No problem.
So let's get started with the big one, Jeff. Pros $1.4 billion acquisition. Walk us through the story behind it. What really mattered in getting that deal across the finish line? Spill the beans now, fully. It's all over.
Well, the good news is Pros was a publicly traded company, so all of this is public. We can share a lot of it. First, let me tell you what Pros is for those of you who don't know. We actually have a former employee of Pros in here, which is crazy. Pros is an over 40-year-old company. Spun out of Continental Airlines, so obviously its roots are in Houston. But it is an actual, I'm not going to call it AI native company because these guys started developing neural networks and machine learning back in the 90s for airline pricing. And before you start throwing tomatoes at me, we do not do personalized pricing. We look at time of day, day of week, city pair locations, and we help an airline maximize which aircraft they should operate on a route, day of the week, etc. and how to look at pricing at different origin destination pairs to understand if I need to save a lot of business seats from Dallas to Miami or Dallas to New York, I can now help an airline offer really cheap fares advance purchased. So actually, since PROS was invented in the 90s, airline pricing has come down when you inflation adjust. PROS took the algorithms that it developed and the neural networks that it developed and actually started bringing those out into other industries. So that's what PROS largely did. It's a fintech company that has developed a lot of AI before AI was even really a word or a thing. So, as Shrag just mentioned, while we've been around a long time, it has obviously caught the eye of a lot of different financial investors as a publicly traded company. Everyone has a lot of visibility into the company, what it does, what the growth trajectory of the business has been, and everyone now, especially financial sponsors, want to acquire into anything that is perceived as AI. And I loved what Sandeep said a few minutes ago, because I've been in private equity now a lot over the last 10 years as well. And all financial sponsors right now are looking for companies who have this defensive moat and specifically solving vertical solutions. And obviously that is what PROS does. We have very specific industry solutions that have deterministic algorithms that are very differentiated and something that the general purpose non-deterministic algorithms cannot solve. So that is really what attracted Thoma Bravo in this case. It was a competitive process. There were multiple strategic interest as well as private investor sponsors, all because of that vertical domain expertise with AI capabilities.
Thank you so much, Jeff. You know, with vibe coding coming in, I thought, I can vibe code anything out, but that doesn't seem the case, right? So, yeah, thank you so much for the insight. So, Jeff, you had a front row seat on how private equity thinks right now when they are looking at firms. So, from a pattern recognition, what's changing in how PE firms evaluate AI-driven companies, especially around growth, discipline, execution, and risk? And I'm also speaking on behalf of the audience, and some of who are founders and operators who possibly may be paying attention to over the next 12, 24 months, how the outlook is.
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, private equity has shifted a lot. When you look at PE firms today and you look at their portfolios, a lot of them are sitting on companies that were acquired in the 21-22 timeframe. And those companies have not performed well. They went after horizontal software plays big time. And we all know and can see what's happening with horizontal software. And this is sort of the hangover that's happening with SaaS and valuations being down. Number one, you've got the big data platforms, the CRMs that are chipping away at a lot of horizontal SaaS platforms. And now, largely agentic has taken over and frankly started to replace the interfaces that a lot of those SaaS companies were. And so private equity has learned that lesson the hard way, unfortunately for them. So now they are very much going after vertical solutions. I will tell you, private equity has also gotten very smart to understanding that really they need growth, but they can go solve the cost equation now with AI. In fact, I worked with my last private equity firm to develop a framework where they can go in now and launch a template in 4 key areas to go drive cost out of the business. So if they can find a company that has that defensive moat and a vertical solution, doesn't even have to be AI native, although obviously they love to find companies that have solved a vertical problem with some sort of algorithmic approach, whether it's leveraging LLMs and all of the latest generative AI, or it is a true deterministic algorithm, which is even more valuable to most private equity firms today. And so that is really what they're prioritizing, and they know that they can go drive cost efficiency so that ultimately they can get to that magical rule of 40, right? Rule of 40 is still the benchmark. There's no doubt about it. So a company that's growing at 10 to 20%, they can easily go drive the profitability at 20% or better. The new term actually is starting to become rule of 50, rule of 60, as you can start to now drive a lot of the productivity improvement into companies via all of the Gen AI that we've been talking about.
Yeah, interesting. And I heard you say the word moat twice,
Yeah.
right? So I've been thinking in my mind, what are the ways, I can have a moat in a SaaS if I'm building a company? I mean, is it intellectual property, IP, patents? I guess the patent office is all, inundated with patents with AI and algorithms. Any thoughts and comments on that, maybe?
Yeah, I don't. Be interesting to hear sort of thoughts in the room on patents. Patents are so slow, and we've been talking about the speed of innovation here today. It's becoming a thing of how do you lock down and protect IP, especially in deals, because so much of the IP today isn't necessarily patent protected. But certainly IP is absolutely the name of the game. And I was just talking to a private equity firm, actually, who's based here in Austin, sort of a mid-cap private equity firm. And
We've got one here in the room.
We
right?
do,
Actually,
yeah.
more than one, right?
Oh, yes. Well, we've got at least one. S3 I know well. But they had a really interesting perspective on buying companies right now and then taking a Windsurf or some sort of a code generation platform and completely rewriting the underlying IP. So you're maintaining the ultimate sort of, concept of what problem you're solving, but you're replacing the underlying technology very, very quickly. And one of the challenges, obviously, all of the tech debt, most of the sort of vertical SaaS that's out there requires complex integration with other systems. And they understand this challenge, and obviously the ability to interoperate and integrate is rapidly better and faster when you've got a more modern platform that can go do auto discovery of data APIs and build then automatic connectors, leveraging a code generator like Windsurf. And you don't even have to do a lot of the human systems integration work that used to have to happen. And so this is becoming yet sort of another play that private equity firms right now are really starting to employ, is rewrite the core underlying tech platform and stack, leveraging the IP that ultimately they acquired, conceptually solving a vertical business problem.
Very interesting thoughts, Jeff. Let's move on to premium. And I was doing some homework on the acquisition. 41% premium over the market price, which got my attention. So looking back, what specific AI capabilities or strategic choices do you believe help pros command a premium valuation of 41%? I think it's 41 and 2%.
Yeah, something like that, 41 and change. Look, there were two things. Number one, pros had once again taken that initial vertical product or problem that it solved in airlines and applied it to broader industries. And obviously we all know the more that you can have broader TAM expansion or total addressable market capabilities, that makes a company much more valuable. But that was a critical shift and pivot the company had to make early in its days. And so obviously that's one of the key things and one of the challenges of a lot of companies today. This is one of the challenges of vertical plays, is if you get into a vertical. There's a great transportation tech platform that's here in Austin, and they solve unbelievable logistic problems for trucking. But getting out of that trucking industry is going to be a real challenge. But if you can figure out a way to take the algorithms and the platform that you've built and broaden that to other industries and solve other use case problems, that's what they're really looking for. That's going to command a higher premium. The second then is the company had long been unprofitable. We all know, especially all the VC folks that were here in the room earlier, you're chasing growth. You don't necessarily care about profitability. Pros did that for a really long time, commanded really high valuations as a publicly traded company. But ultimately, as revenue slows growth-wise in terms of as you get bigger and law of large numbers, ultimately you've got to then go after profitability, ultimately to seek after that rule of 40. And the company had invested in underlying capabilities internally to show that it could actually achieve profitability and then start to improve and scale for profitability. And so those were the two things that certainly I would say. This is obviously one of the challenges as an entrepreneur myself who had a startup 2 companies ago. This is ultimately the challenge, right? How do you actually get to profitability? And when is the right time to go and do that? If you're at R40 growth, you don't really have to get there. Once you start getting below 40, you get to 30, 25 and below, whether it's public markets or private They're going to expect you to figure out how to get to profitability. But the beauty is we now have new tools to be able to go help us deploy inside of an organization to really get that profitability.
Interesting. I would like to know more about those tools, right? Right. So, moving on, if you were stepping in as a CEO role today, whether it's a startup or a mid-sized company, what are the first 2 or 3 actions you would take around AI right now?
Well, having just stepped in May into this particular company, I can tell you what I did to directly answer to that. First and foremost is to look internally at what are we doing across our HR and employee base, what are we doing in our IT infrastructure support base, what are we doing in our customer support base, and then what are we doing for product development and code generation. Those are sort of the 4 big areas of this template that I referenced that we developed at the last private equity firm. I came in and deployed that here at Pros. What was interesting is the prior leadership team had challenged everyone in the company to go figure out, how do you deploy an agent? They were challenging admins, as an example, to say, hey, stop scheduling my travel on Google Flights or whatever and build an agent to go do that. Okay, it's interesting. And that grassroots sort of piques people's curiosities and get people's actually thinking about it. But it doesn't really drive the ROI. And I hear today, and I see all these studies out there that executives are getting very frustrated because it's not hitting the bottom line at the moment. EBIT is not necessarily improving for most companies as they're spending tons of dollars doing proof of concepts, rolling things out, et cetera. And so we changed the approach and we went after those 4 key areas. So first, in customer support, we started with an agent that we went and trained on all of our internal training for humans, all of our support knowledge bases. We used it for our support engineers at first, and then we turned it loose as self-service to our customers. I would argue this is a huge killer move inside of most large enterprises today, something you can go build on your own. You don't have to go buy off-the-shelf software to go and do that. On the employee side with HR, how do you go take all the questions employees are constantly asking? When's the next holiday? Well, how do my benefits work? I need to change something in my payroll. Build an agent to go and handle that, and you take huge pressure off of your HR support organization. Do the same thing for IT and support. And then the final area was that code-based platform. We went and totally transformed our engineering organization and deployed Windsurf. And we now have 40% of all product code that gets pushed as of the last quarter in Q4 is generated by an automated bot. And so we have really increased the pace now that we can launch customer demands into our product.
Interesting. I think we have like a few more minutes. So I would like to take a question maybe from the audience. If anybody's got a question for Jeff, since we have like about 3 minutes. Raise your hands, please, if you have a question. Dinner. That's what it seems like. One question. Yes, Dr. Adil.
Jeff, thank you very much. What is your prediction on physical AI?
Physical AI, meaning robotics.
Yeah.
Well, so this is a really interesting question. So I talked a little, I love to talk about this. I talked a little bit about deterministic and non-deterministic. I don't know if everybody in the room really knows what that means, but the LLMs are non-deterministic, and so they're you can have a conversation with it, and like a human, if you ask it the same question 5 times, it doesn't give you the exact same words back exactly 5 times, right? Well, if you think about the physical world and you think about the world that I'm in, American Airlines is not going to be too happy if my algorithms are hallucinating and saying, oh, well, it's $280 right now and it's $2 the next minute, right? To a different person. So there's different use cases out in the world, and non-deterministic algorithms like LLMs work great for a lot of use cases, but they don't work great especially in the physical world. And I don't think this is getting enough attention right now. I certainly know as a publicly traded CEO, this was the number one question I was getting by all of Wall Street investors and analysts was, why isn't AI just going to kill your company and kill all SaaS? And the answer is because there's a lot of different use cases, and physical is certainly one where you've got to have deterministic algorithms. I'm actually really optimistic, though, about what we're seeing obviously right now in the transportation world. We've seen it in aircraft for a long time, that aircraft can autonomously be flown. I'm an investor in Archer Aviation, for those of you who don't know it. I'm very confident that they're going to have an autonomous flying taxi before the next year or so. And what I see right now in robotics, I'm actually really involved at UT here in Austin with the robotics program here, and it is unbelievable physically what these machines now are able to do task-wise, and they're 100% autonomous. Now, they're not using ChatGPT or an LLM version to drive their software. Once again, these are very sophisticated deterministic networks that they've developed for those physical things. But I'm actually really optimistic about that. I'm less optimistic on the software side. I actually think the cyber issue is a much bigger issue. I mean, I'll just share, we have seen attacks recently where number one, it's an agent bot that is spearing a phishing attack into an organization. A human responds. Even with MFA, they then use an agent to bomb the MFA. So then the MFA actually goes through because the human's sitting there going, wait a second, I'm getting 500 of these. I don't know which one's mine. And that's just a quick example, right? They're going to be doing the same thing to the agent itself, by the way, right? And so I actually think in the software world where these have to be open systems or we can't actually use them, this is a much bigger challenge. And I think the cyber world, the security breach world is going to cause a much bigger challenge and slow our pace down there more than it will in the physical, where these are mostly going to be closed systems with deterministic algorithms, and you're not going to have as many of the challenges. Yeah.
And so I just want to take 30 seconds to share something, since you mentioned about security, and Mark covered it early on in the panel as far as security is concerned and the pace of AI, right? I mean, if you talk to a startup, they just want to go super fast, and companies also want to go super fast. And we had a discussion early on with the CXOs. I practice information security myself, and so one of the key themes that came out is it all depends upon the risk profile of the organization. If you are a JP Morgan, you want to be extremely careful with AI and AI security. But if you are a retail organization, the CIO that spoke to was Tecovas, right? They sell cowboy boots. It's a $300 million company. Their risk appetite is a lot more because they have to keep up the pace in the marketplace, and they're actually going aggressively after AI and actually wipe coding tools, Claude, to ensure they are staying up and they're not spending dollars in expensive COTS software, right? And that's another interesting point that we discussed. Adobe stock had some downward headwinds recently, and I've personally experienced that. I had to build a logo for my company, and I just went to ChatGPT, Nano Banana Pro. My logo is done. I didn't have to hire a marketing person. I didn't have to hire that person, and then marketing person doesn't have to buy Adobe because that's what they use, and that's clear downstream impact to a company, pure SaaS company like Adobe, with the numbers. So it'll be interesting on how companies stay ahead of the competition with SaaS, and also how they secure, especially if they are large financial institutions. So with that, Jeff, I think we are out of time. I want to take a moment again to thank you for sharing the insights and especially driving from Houston here. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Cotton, CEO, Pros.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Moving on, we're about to close. We're just a couple of minutes away, and in the end, I would like to call all of our speakers, our moderators, everyone on stage, so that you can see all the folks who really made this event possible and all the amazing thought leadership that you heard today. And that is just to tee up the folks that you should be meeting and networking with during the dinner. But before we get into that, a quick word from one of our board members, Ajay Quatra. He is doing amazing things at Dell, but he is really advancing our chamber. So Ajay, if you could say a few words.
Hello? Yeah, I think there were a lot of claims made that they were between you and dinner. I think I'm the one I can take that claim. So what an amazing day we have had. If you look at the conversations and panels, I think very engaging, informative discussions. Hope they inspired you, and you'll probably go more informed and maybe create some more startups, hopefully. Yeah, so, I work on AI for a living, so maybe I'll just add some thoughts also. I think as you all know, AI is not new. Yeah, so this is the new generative AI wave that is coming and driving these things, and it's going at a breakneck pace. If you look at the previous technology transitions, I think this is much, much faster. So whether you like it, love it, hate it, fear it, you will have to deal with it. So get used to it. Yeah, there are too many powerful forces, multi-trillion-dollar market cap companies, sovereigns that are driving it, fear of missing out, countries. So it is just too much. So may as well as embrace it, figure out. End of the day, it's a tool, and just like any tool, whether fire or knife can cut both ways, it'll do the same thing. So just learn to use it the best you can. Yeah, and just like if LLMs are like an engine, if you take a car has an engine, but then there is more things that are put around it to make the car drive. Yeah, you need tires, you need other things. Same thing with LLMs. You need to put a lot of things around it to make a real impact. Yeah, so use case matters. I think that's a lot of that we'll discuss today, and that will never get old. Yeah, so you have to make sure that to get the best ROI, you got to use it for the right things and right solve problems. Yeah, and these things will get commoditized, will go faster. End of the day, I think don't count the humans out. Human ingenuity and human spirit is still alive, and common sense will never get old. So sometimes I call it uncommon sense. With that, I think we would like to thank all our panelists, speakers that took time to come and make this event a great event. And along with that, all our sponsors. By the way, Dell Technologies is also becoming a corporate sponsor for us, thanks to Vivek, with all the help that he's done. And of course, Damon, L&T, Autonomize, InfraKey, and Zscaler are responsible. And along with that, I think we got a whole bunch of people that made this event great. Between Ishi, Diba, all our volunteers, the board members that took a lot of effort. I think we got a lot of names here. So a big round of applause for all these people. For these few hours that we spent, there was a couple of months of planning. Yeah, everything was meticulously arranged, choreographed, thought through, and then today it was all realized. So, so that's why I think it's a great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And Ishi, I think you want to talk about our upcoming events. So.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ajay, and thanks for all of you for being here. Actually, before we actually talk about events, a couple of more shout outs. I want to recognize again all of our partners. David from Physical AI, he's so hopefully somewhere. I want to thank our photographer, Paris. Please, just a round of applause for him. He takes amazing photographs, and not just as events, at personal photographs as too. He's stellar. So go see him, as well as Santosh, who is live streaming. Thank you. For the very first time, we've had video, and we are live streaming this on our LinkedIn. So excited. So yeah, we have an entire community to thank. Ganesh. Nimish, of course. Nimish, Jignesh Bhai for all the food, Guru who helps us manage all of our sponsors, and then last but not the least, piggybacking on what Ajay just said, Dell is joining us as a corporate sponsor, so thank you for your support, as well as Larsen and Toubro Technology Services. They are joining us as an annual sponsor as well. And then, of course, come see us at any and all of these events. For our members, these events are free. And if you're not a member, Nimish, if we can go back to the next slide, please do become a member. It's super easy. We have 3 tiers. You can be an individual member, a small business, or a corporate member. So we would love to join and support your growth and come and join the community. With that, we're done. It's a wrap. In the end, I would just like to ask all of our speakers to come on stage so that you can see them again, who they are, and of course our board members as well.
All the board members and all the speakers, whoever is a part of today's occasion, please do come. Yeah, some of the people, as Geeta said, we can stand somebody here, and some people can able to be. Please be part of the photo. Alok, Asif, Anupam. Huh? Deba, where are you? Deba, volunteers, all the people who are working. Jignesh Bhai, please, please. Pramod, volunteers, all the volunteers, please come. All the speakers. Vijay, Aaron.
Okay.
Dane, you come over here, sir. Please come over.
Okay, one second.
Archana.
So while we're getting everybody organized, I just want to also make sure we announce this. We have a special relationship with South by Southwest. We're not only going to be doing some programs during South by Southwest, but members of the chamber will get 15% off the lowest price for South by Southwest tickets, which is well worth it, joining a member. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, everybody please, all the volunteers who have been working a day and night, all the speakers who put their effort, please come forward. Everybody, we want all of you. Okay. Guru, you are here. Asif? Yes. Okay, good. Alok, Vijay, everybody? Yeah, smile. Ready for dinner? Everybody, please do not miss the wonderful Hyderabadi house food. And please have the food. Have the food. And please, good night. Drive safe. Weather is so beautiful for it's cooperated. Have a great day. See you all next one. Thank you. Good night.